Yeah, this is case number 144 on the calendar in the matter of Boone versus Rose. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Get ready for a lecture. Mr. Boone, you and the defendant evidently had a relationship, and you have a baby together. Your lawsuit, Mr. Boone, which I will dispose of very quickly, says that while you were together, she drove your car, you drove her truck, you put a stereo system in her car because you were doing a lot of the driving in her car. Then you broke up and you want your stereo system back.
Basically.
Uh-huh.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't you have bigger things to deal with?
Yes, we do.
So why are you bothering with this dumb issue?
Because the money that I was going to get from the stereo system was going to go towards my son.
Why don't you get a job?
I've got a job.
Good. Use the money from your job. Do you understand? That's
Yes.
what you do, use money from your job. What I find most interesting is your counterclaim, which I will dispose of equally as swiftly. Your counterclaim, which is a little interesting, says that you and the plaintiff agreed while you were pregnant that the baby was going to be placed for adoption. And then Mr. Boone changed his mind.
In the hospital when we were signing the paperwork, yes, ma'am.
And because he changed his mind, it cost you about $1,000 for a lawyer.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want him to pay the $1,000 because he changed his mind.
I want him to pay the $1,000 because he lied to the judge and he lied to a lawyer. He said that I had given up my rights, which as soon as I found out he did not sign the paperwork, I signed the reversal papers, the dismissal papers, ma'am, and he went and got a court order against me to take the baby home with him. And that's not a place for a baby. And so it was either the baby goes home with him or I go and get a lawyer and have the baby come home with me.
Miss Rose.
Yes, ma'am.
First, take a tissue.
Thank you.
So let me understand. You're in the hospital. You had signed a release for the baby.
Yes, ma'am.
He changed his mind.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he went to court and said, she's given up her rights to the baby, so I want to take my son home with me.
Yes, ma'am.
Had you ever discussed placing the baby for adoption, Mr. Boone?
We had. We went to a few meetings with the lady of Lifeline. The first meeting we went to, I told her I did not want to do it. I did not want to give the baby up for adoption. And
did you change your mind?
Well,
you're allowed to tell me that I did change my mind.
Well, I did, but I mean, I never wanted to give him up for adoption to begin with.
I understand that, but I want you to be very honest with me. You
Yes.
had, in fact, discussed it with her.
Yeah, we had discussed it. We were making an option.
And you did see your son and then change your mind.
I watched him be born. That was, you know, probably one of the happiest days of my life.
So far?
So far.
How old are you?
I'm 18.
It's a very short life so far.
Yes.
Miss Rose.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to try to explain it to you in a way you'll understand it.
Yes.
Let us say the situation was reversed, and the two of you had decided, especially Mr. Boone, that he wasn't ready for parenthood, he couldn't deal with it financially, he couldn't deal with it emotionally, and he wanted to place the baby for adoption, and you said okay. And then you went through the experience of having your baby, you looked at him, you fell in love, and you changed your mind.
Ma'am, I was
Just a second.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm reversing the situation. Do you think really that Mr. Boone could sue you for changing your mind and therefore being financially responsible for this baby for the next 21 years?
Ma'am, he has not helped me.
No. You're not paying attention. I don't know if you're not getting it. Do you think that it would be right or fair or legally appropriate for you to be sued by him, because the law would require that he support this baby until the baby is 21 years old? And you would come to me and say to me, Judge, I fell in love with this baby. I changed my mind. I couldn't give him up. You think he could sue you?
He's suing me for speakers.
Well,
I don't see why.
He may sue you for speakers, but that's not going to happen here. You have no claim against him. He changed his mind. He's allowed to change his mind, just as the law would give you an opportunity to change your mind soon. You know, within 24 hours, some places 48 hours. That's a very important time. So your parents are now responsible for taking care of your baby.
I am.
But you live at home.
Yes, ma'am, but I pay for everything. I've gotten no help from him. My parents have been helping me out as much as they can.
So I say to you, your parents are responsible for the baby. He says that it's been made very difficult for him to see his son. Why is that?
Because my lawyers have said that unless he helps out, he got arrested a week after the baby was born.
For what?
Theft of property. He got fired from his job. He stole. Even his little friend over there knows about it. He got arrested and fired from his job for stealing. He stole digital cameras, CD players. He stole cameras. He stole lots of stuff. I thought my birthday present was, I don't know how he would have gotten $500 to get my birthday present, but I have that.
So?
And then I have,
Had he been arrested before?
I don't know. Not to my knowledge.
Listen to
So,
me.
Yes, ma'am.
Comes under the category of you picked him.
Yes, ma'am. I know.
And he's got an interest in seeing this child. Now, your lawyers may say to you, unless he contributes to the baby's support, he's not going to see him. But that's being very short-sighted. Listen, it's being very short-sighted because let's say a year from now or 2 years from now, he's working, he's got a good job, and he says, now I want to see the baby and I can contribute my $25 a week, whatever it is. And the judge said, yes, you're entitled to, you're the father. Well, then it's been 2 years or a year, and you're introducing a new person into your baby's life rather than have the baby see him regularly. You can't be selfish about that, and you can't be childish. 2 18-year-olds make a baby, but then you have to be a grown-up if you decided to keep him.
Ma'am, I've tried to be as grown-up as possible about this. I've tried to do everything that I possibly can. He's threatens me. He's threatened me since the day the baby was, since I took the baby home. He's threatened me since I took the baby home to take me to court. He said that he's going to get full custody of the baby. He would call my house.
That's not a threat. Just a minute.
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Rose, that's not a threat. Now, I know you consider that a threat,
Yes, ma'am.
but it isn't a threat.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bobby Boone says the mother of his child, Teresa Rose, owes for the cost of car speakers. Teresa says Bobby owes her for interfering with the adoption of their baby.
The law in this country is that in regards to custody disputes between a mother and a father, nobody gets preference. The fact that he may have to prove that he has the ability, the capability, and that he'd be a better parent than you, that's a whole different ball of wax. But he has the legal right to do that. That's not a threat. But I think your lawyer is being very short-sighted if your lawyer says, don't let him see the baby. Very short-sighted. Now, what do you want to say?
After the baby was born, I was giving her money on a regular basis, and then she heard a bunch of stuff about me that wasn't true, and then tells me I can't see my son. I call her house. Her stepdad tells me I was not allowed to call there anymore. I wasn't allowed to come to her house. I was never going to see my son again. That's his words. He took me off before the baby was born to one of his friend's house, and they were telling me, the best thing I can do is give him up, and he'll pick up the pieces. He even mentioned it more than once that if he wanted me in the bottom of Smith Lake, that's where I would be. And up to the point where they told me I wasn't allowed to call or go over there anymore. I was giving her money on a regular basis.
Just 1 second. Have you gone to court with regard to custody and visitation?
Not yet.
Well, why don't you, sir?
Well, that's what I'm working on.
What do you mean working on it? You don't have to work on it. You have the right to go into your local family court or juvenile court, file a petition asking to legally be declared the father of this child,
yes,
and asking for either custody, if you feel as if you're the better parent, or visitation, regular court-ordered visitation, and they will also fix a support schedule for you. Yeah. The problem, Mr. Boone, is, and I don't want you to feel so angry at her parents, because her parents know that an 18-year-old who is now saddled with an infant, that changes her life forever, as it may change your life forever.
Yes.
Her parents clearly understand that if she were prepared to do that, that would probably be in her best interest to do it. If she were prepared to do that, if she felt as if it were in her best interest. So you are really affecting her, her family, her parents, the baby, and you have a job doing what?
Well, right now I'm working delivering pizza.
You're a pizza delivery person.
And
just pay attention. You're a pizza delivery person. Do you know how much the reports indicate it costs to raise a child in this country from age 0 to 21?
No, ma'am.
$260,000 if you want to educate your child, medically take care of your child, clothe your child, sporting equipment, sneakers, orthodontist, etc., etc., etc.
The job I had, it has excellent benefits, and he would be on my insurance, and I would take full responsibility for him. And That's what I...
Not on $12 an hour you won't, Mr. Boone. In the meantime, you have a responsibility as a father, and that is to go to court and file a petition seeking to legally be declared the father of this child in a court. Say, right now I'm delivering pizzas. I'll give you a piece of what I earn. I want to support him, but I also want to see him. Go ahead.
Ma'am, I have done as much as I can to let him see the baby, even though my parents tell me not to.
Shh.
Even though my parents tell me not to talk to him and stuff, I will still call him. He never even asks about the baby. I'll sit there, I'll talk to him, he'll ask me how I am, he'll ask...
Mr. Boone, don't interrupt her.
He will never even ask how the baby is. He has not helped me, yes, the first month or so before he started saying, oh, I want my speakers back, because I made it perfectly clear to him that we were not going to get back together because he hurt me so badly. I'm sorry, that just is a very emotional thing. I was in the hospital, just had my baby, and I found out it was going to go home with him. His home is not a safe, I don't feel it is a...
That's not emotionally hurting you. Listen to me. You said, I am giving this baby up. He said, I don't want to. I am going to fight to keep the baby so that I will have him in my life. That's not a trick.
I went to...
Shh. He had a choice. Just as I said to you, Miss Rose, you could have the same change of heart. You could have had the same change of heart. Fact is, you didn't. And it's going to be very difficult for you. But it's a big mistake not to let him see this baby in a comfortable circumstance so that he and the child develop a relationship now without acrimony, without fighting. Anyway, your lawsuit's dismissed, and Miss Rose, so is yours. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Oh my God, he lives in a nasty little trailer. They have roaches, they have 5 people living in a little single wide trailer.
She's let me see him 3 times in over a month.
He got fired for stealing a week after the baby was born.
You know, I've made some mistakes, but, you know, I've paid for my mistakes.
He only wanted to keep me, and that's just that.
And now the next case.
All parties on Choka versus Chavez. Step forward, please.
26-year-old hairstylist Diane Choka is suing her sister's ex-fiancé, 26-year-old dock worker Shane Chavez, for the deposit on a wedding reception.
Miss Choka, the defendant is your sister's former fiancé.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, you loaned him $500 to put down as a deposit on a hall for the wedding.
Correct.
Wedding was called off. You want your $500 back.
Correct.
So let me hear about the circumstances of this loan.
My sister and him were planning on buying a house, so she was trying to put down all the money toward the house and that, and he agreed to pay for the hall, but at the time he didn't have the money for the down payment on the hall.
Just a minute.
So I went ahead and put the money on the down payment on the hall.
Wait just a second. Let's go back. He didn't have the money.
Correct.
Did the two of you have a discussion?
Yes.
Tell me where and when you had the discussion.
It was basically over the phone constantly, and
Not constantly. When did you have the discussion that I will put down the $500 for the hall for you?
when they planned on getting married, I don't know the exact date that they set the date, you know, when they were
Well, I
going to
want
be
to
married.
hear about where you were when you had this discussion. And you had the discussion.
I was at home.
And you spoke to him on the phone?
Correct. And I've also talked to him in person.
Well, I want to hear the first conversation you had about the $500. Do you remember it?
I was on the phone with him, and my sister was also at his house or his apartment because they were living together.
Right.
And I said I would go ahead and put the money down on the hall, in the understanding that he would pay back
Not
the $500.
understanding. I want you to tell me what words were exchanged.
I asked if he would pay back the money, and he said yes when he got his tax returns in.
Go ahead, let me hear.
I did offer to pay back the $500. I never asked for the money to be loaned to me.
Okay, just a second.
Go ahead.
You had the conversation with her on the phone.
Correct.
Tell me about your version of the conversation.
The conversation just went as pretty much as she said. She had asked me if I was going to pay her back the money, and I agreed to pay back the money, just over verbal conversation over the phone. It was mainly because I wasn't wanting to pay it back. It's just out of kindness to her. That was pretty much all of it. And to get her off the phone and leave me alone, that was pretty much the whole bit. Because she was calling every 3 days asking me about this.
Asking you about what?
Asking me about the money.
What about the money?
After everything was said and done with the wedding being called off and all that.
No. I'm talking about at the time, Mr. Chavez.
Mm-hmm.
The time she said she would put the money down on the hall. Did you say to her, I'll pay you back?
No, at that time I did not say anything like
Well,
that.
I want you to tell me about the conversation.
There was none. They, I'm guessing that her and Lori had went to the hall and just rented it.
When did you tell her that you would pay her back the $500?
After everything was said and done, the relationship
What do you-
was over.
After it was over?
Yes.
And tell me about those conversations.
She'd called the house about 3 times in 1 week, asking me about it. My sister would answer the phone at times, and she wasn't able to, you know, give verification of where I was or anything like that. And I had finally got to talk to her, and I told her just out of point blank, yeah, I'll pay you back the money.
Fine, good. So that's what you agreed to do, right?
Over the phone, yes. It was
Over
pretty
the
much.
phone, in person,
Well, it's.
and he didn't pay you back the money.
No.
Initially, even if I find that there was no contract, sir.
Well, it's not only that aspect of it. You
What's
got the
the-
aspect that Lori over here. Lori is marrying everybody. Okay, Lori is marrying Jimmy and Billy Bob and whoever else is around her. Okay,
Yeah.
the money originally did not come from Diane. The money originally did not come from Lori. The original money to put down the hall was from a prior wedding that Lori was supposed to be in.
No.
Hand down. Yeah.
That Lori was supposed to be in. The gentleman that she was supposed to marry originally put $500 down for a wedding hall. That money then, that wedding got canceled all of a sudden, you know, more problems. You know, that money then got rolled over to Diane, and Diane agreed to pay Lori back the $500.
No. We lost out the money from her first wedding. Here is my canceled check that the bank makes a copy of to the hall that they were supposed to get married at. Came out of my pocket, not my sister's, no one else's.
Okay. I don't necessarily believe that you had a conversation with him where he asked you for a loan of $500 to put down on the hall. I think that you and your sister and your mother went down, reserved the hall, he broke it off, and then you started to ask him about this money. But once he agreed to pay you back, he agreed to pay you back.
More of an annoyance than it was just to actually
Well,
pay her the
then,
money.
So, is she,
You
so?
get creditors calling your house constantly, you know, you got some kind of legal binding there, you know. I just got to get her off my back. That's pretty much it.
Good, so why
I
didn't
was
you
said
pay her?
no.
Just a minute, so you told you to pay her. Why didn't you pay her to get her off your
I
back?
had no intentions to begin with. It wasn't my money. I never asked for the money. It was just
It was
put
for
up.
your wedding.
It was just there.
It was for your wedding.
It was for her wedding. I was just a participant that happened to be there.
Judgment
just
for the
there.
plaintiff in the amount of $500. Thank you.
Parties
you.
are excused. You may step out.
I'm just glad he got what was coming to him.
It's crazy.
He had no right ripping.
Service advisor Lori Strange for the cost of a bridesmaid's dress after Lori uninvited her to the wedding. Lori is countersuing, claiming Amber convinced some guests not to attend.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor's case number 280 on the calendar in the matter of Pennington versus Strange. Thank you. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
You two ladies, according to this complaint that I've read, were very good friends, and you were getting married. You asked the plaintiff to be your matron of honor at the wedding. She agreed. She purchased a dress, which she paid for. There was some sort of a disagreement. You were uninvited to the wedding and uninvited to be part of the bridal party. You want to be reimbursed for the dress, as well as, according to you, a lot of mental anguish, which we'll get to in a minute. The defendant has a cross-complaint for some sort of an assault and undermining some guests' appearance at the wedding. She said that you convinced some people not to come to the wedding, and she's got a lot of mental anguish, too. She's also countersuing for an assault. Okay, very sad. How long had you been friends?
8 years,
When was the wedding planned?
September 14th of this year.
Okay, so now tell me what happened.
Okay, on September 8th, it was on a Saturday, Lori and I and a few of our friends decided to go out. It was a week before her wedding. Lori didn't want anything big because at the time her father was sick, so she didn't know if she had to cancel or not, so she did, you know, she didn't want anything big.
You mean like a bachelorette party?
Yes. So we had decided to go to a pizza place, San Fratello's. At San Fratello's, we waited for about an hour. We were downstairs talking. Then they came up and they got us to sit at our table. And while we were sitting there, they were just talking about things they had did the night before. Now the night
Who was talking about?
it was Lori and the girls who were sitting at the table, the people standing up in the wedding. Now, I was...
Other members of the wedding party?
Yes, her family, okay? I have a letter from Lori.
Tell me letter. So
Okay.
what happened? So they were talking about something that they had done the evening before.
Right. They were altering dresses, they were doing party favors, and they were making seating arrangements. All of that I was excluded from, okay? Didn't understand. So they're talking about how they had a good night that Friday night, blah, 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 this. And I asked Lori, when did you plan on telling me about this, Lori? And I can't remember quoted words, but it was basically, you know, it was no big deal, blah, 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 this, and she went downstairs in the bathroom. I therefore followed her. We were both upset. Lori and I were talking. She said it was nothing to hurt my feelings. She wanted to have a family get-together. And I told her, you know, that it hurt my feelings. I was hurt. She started telling me there was a bunch of her family members that did not like me, okay, and...
So, something happened in the bathroom, according to her.
Yes, we got in an argument. It wasn't an argument, it was just basically our sides of the story, you know.
But according to you, nothing physical took place there?
No,
Okay.
nothing at all. She was in the bathroom stall.
Okay, so nothing physical took place, according to you. Did you spend the rest of the evening together?
Yes, we did.
When did she uninvite you to the wedding?
I came home on a Wednesday, September 12th, and after work I went in my mailbox and there was a letter in there from Lori, and I read the letter, and she uninvited me.
Okay. How much did you spend on the wedding?
$115 for the dress, and that was it.
Well, then tell me why you're suing her for
I am
$115
suing
for the
her-
dress, $885.
Okay, I am suing her $115.50 for the dress.
Right.
Okay, I am suing her for my lost wages because I took off of work that day.
Which day?
Friday, the day of the wedding, September 14th.
Yes.
Okay. I am suing for my husband's lost wages because he also took off of work. And I am suing for $500 mental distress because what she did was hurt me, and she didn't just hurt me, she hurt a lot of other people.
You don't get paid for that, Miss Pennington. You don't get paid for hurt feelings. And you don't get paid for your husband's lost wages. If he wanted to go to work, he would have gone to work. And you don't get paid for your lost wages. You change your mind, you want to go to work, you go to work. Your dress cost $115.50. Okay. Now, let's hear your side of the story. Tell me first, because I read your answer. What happened in the bathroom?
When we were in the bathroom, I had walked away from the table, went down to the bathroom, and actually I was doing my business in the bathroom when she swung open the door. So of course I had to get up and, you know, put my clothes on and everything, you know, and I tried to get out of the bathroom. She pushed me, and she did it twice because I kept trying to get out of the bathroom. And as I was trying to get out of the bathroom, Tammy was in there trying to tell her to let me go. She's like trying to calm her down. My girlfriend Lisa was in the washroom also, and the waitress and the owner were. She grabbed my arm, and as I kept trying to get out, she would swing me back twice. I finally got out of the bathroom. I mean, and during all that, she even told the restaurant owner to F off, you know, and it was just, I finally got out. Then the police came.
Were you injured?
Huh?
Were you injured?
No.
Okay. So if one is not injured, then you don't get compensated for injuries if you're not injured.
Correct.
You had an argument with your girlfriend. She pushed you. So what is your countersuit about?
My countersue is about people that did not show up for the wedding.
Well, tell me about that.
Well, there was 23 people that I had invited to my wedding that I have been friends with because of her when we met. They were all, you know, it was the group of people we hung around with. I invited them and her family that I was very close to. None of them showed, not one. And, you know, I lost all that money from the wedding, of course. You know, it was a tough decision for me to make this. I mean, if you're good friends, you don't push somebody, you don't grab them.
You also don't tell them that they're not invited to a wedding.
Miss Pennington.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Speak not. Go ahead.
And I feel that, you know, because of that, it was not my fault. She did not have to be that vulgar. She did not have to do that in the bathroom. She could have called me.
Listen, there's no question. You had an argument in the bathroom. What makes you think that everything is worth a lawsuit?
It's not.
It's not. You're absolutely right. So the argument is not worth a counterclaim. And if I understand your part about the guests, what you're saying is she convinced certain guests not to attend the wedding because she wasn't going?
Well, they probably didn't go because she wasn't going to be in it, so they figure, why
I had
go?
no control over that.
Just a second.
I mean,
first of all, she's anticipating what I'm saying, and it's irritating to me. Don't anticipate what I'm going to say.
Cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amber Pennington says after an argument with former friend Laurie Strange, she was uninvited to Laurie's wedding. Amber is suing for the cost of her bridesmaid's dress.
Miss Strange, she's absolutely right. She has no control over these people. If she said to them, I would prefer that you not attend the wedding because she hurt my feelings, they had the option of saying, I'm crazy about Lori, and I'm going to the wedding anyway. So she has no control over whether they go or not. So you have no counterclaim. Why don't you think that you're responsible for her dress?
Why don't I?
Yeah.
For one, she left it at my house. She came to try it on there, didn't even take it. She said she didn't want it altered. And then she called me when she got the letter saying she wanted her dress back. Well, come and get it. I mean, I'm not going to deliver it to you,
Your Honor,
after
that's
everything that happened.
You don't understand.
Okay.
You were supposed to be matron of honor?
Yes, ma'am.
It has been my experience, my vast experience, that bridesmaids' dresses, and these dresses were made or ordered specifically for the bridesmaids and matron of honor, they're usually the ugliest suckers around. I don't know a living soul who has ever put on one of those dresses again. They buy them, they never look right, they always, you know, look like prom dresses spruced up. So she has absolutely no use for this dress. So what I'm asking you is, whether she had it altered or not, she was intending to be part of your wedding. At the last minute, once the dress was purchased, you told her that you didn't want her to be in the wedding. You had an argument. I mean, it's the kind of argument that probably should have been resolved. She had hurt feelings because she felt she was excluded from a party that you had before. It may not have been a party, it may just have been a family get-together, but she was very honest with you about her feelings. You may have been a little overly sensitive and a little immature. If some of her family got together the night before and you weren't invited, so what? Why would you want to do anything to spoil her wedding if she was your good friend?
It had nothing to do with spoiling her wedding. It had to be included in her wedding.
No. It had to do with spoiling her wedding.
It did not.
Miss Pennington, I'm going to try one more time. What you're supposed to say if she's your good friend is, it's not about me. You have to repeat that mantra. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about me. This is her day. It's all about her. And if my feelings were hurt, if I were a mature adult, I would have waited until perhaps a week or so after the wedding, maybe when they got back from their honeymoon, if they went on one and said, I just want to tell you, my feelings were really hurt that I wasn't invited the night before when you had some people over, because I thought we were really good friends. That's what a mature adult does. A spoiled, self-centered person, however, 2 days before or 3 days before a wedding, to create a scene and a fuss to diminish the joy of the wedding, is just that, a selfish, self-centered person. That's you. But you happen to be a selfish, self-centered person who was entitled to her $115.50 back, because she did, in fact, say, you're not welcome at the wedding. You had a loss. You're entitled to that loss. Not all the other things that you're suing for. Your lost wages, your husband's lost wages, your pain and suffering, your break. And Miss Strange, you are not assaulted in the bathroom. You had a fight with your girlfriend in the bathroom. That does not rise to the level of an assault. And the fact that some guests decided not to show up because she had been uninvited also does not create a cause of action. So your counterclaim is dismissed. The judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $115.50. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Never in my mind would I think something like this would happen.
It wasn't upsetting, it was very hurtful.
I can finally say this is over, it's done with.
I lost a very good friend.
I can go on with my life now.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Brown versus Mazzaros, step forward, please.
20-year-old food server Jennifer Brown is suing former friend, 23-year-old student Bridget Mazzaros for unpaid babysitting fees. Bridget claims Jennifer was negligent and is countersuing for the money she's already paid.
Ms. Brown, you are suing the defendant for daycare services that you provided for her children. She has a counterclaim, and her counterclaim is she wants you to pay her back the money that she did in fact pay you because she said you didn't do a good job. That's part of your counterclaim,
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Then she's got some claim with regard to her son being injured while in your care, and then she's got a claim that has something to do with cats. So we'll take that in a minute. When did you start to babysit for her?
I started babysitting on September 1st, 2000.
And how many months did you babysit for her?
I babysat for 5 months.
What was the financial arrangement?
I was getting paid $612 a month.
And according to your complaint, the defendant was getting that money from the state
Yes,
for daycare services.
yes.
And the check that she received from the state was how much?
$612.
So far, is that correct?
Yes,
Then there came a time after 2 months, you said, that she stopped paying you.
yes.
What happened to the 3 months' pay that she is owed?
Well, actually, she's wrong about when she started daycare. She started in the end of August, the first week of the end of August, because my then
Fine, so we got the end of August.
partner, I didn't pay her because she didn't do her job, basically.
Why did you fire her?
I tried to fire her. I actually tried to get my sister in to babysit. I tried putting them in daycare.
No. Why didn't you say, don't come here anymore?
Because my ex-boyfriend wouldn't watch my kids. I was in school. I couldn't.
So what does that have to do with her, madam? Is there something wrong with your brain? If you were not happy with her services, then you fire her.
I did complain to her. She wouldn't listen to me. I'd come home, she'd be under the influence of marijuana, and my son got hurt because of her.
Ms. Mazzaros, what were you doing with the checks that you did in fact receive from the state each month for $612? You did in fact receive the checks. Now, what were you doing with her checks?
Well, I didn't give her the money, but I didn't spend it either.
You're a hustler. Ms. Mazzaros, if someone was watching my children and I was dissatisfied with the quality of the care that was provided, I would not let them near my children.
Well, I didn't have a choice. My ex-boyfriend would let her in the door when I wasn't there or I was
You call
sleeping.
the police and you say to them, I need a restraining order because someone is trespassing in my home.
They won't put a restraining order up unless she does something physical to me or my children. I've tried this before.
The $612 was not meant for you.
I didn't spend it. I sent it back to the government.
I don't believe you. You're a liar. You're a liar. Nobody sends a check back to the government.
You do if you're overpaid.
No. You did not send a check back to the government.
I didn't spend the money.
You may not have spent it, you may have put it in a bank someplace, but don't try to tell me that you sent your check back and said, I don't want this check.
No, I sent the cash back. I cashed them and I sent them back.
Stop. Hey! Behave yourselves.
I'm not lying about that. I'm telling you.
Oh, yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are. You are lying. Period. Lying.
Okay.
So you know what happens when you lie? I'm not even going to
lying.
entertain your counterclaim.
I'm not lying in this case.
Oh, you are. You are. If you told me that first you signed the check and sent it back to the government with a little note that said, I'm being overpaid, and then you said, no, excuse me, I didn't do that. I cashed the checks and sent the cash back to the government. That's what you just told me.
Yes, and that's what I did. And I phoned daycare more than once and told them not to send any more because she was not doing her job.
How much do you believe that?
It doesn't ring right.
No, it doesn't ring right. It doesn't ring right because it's not true. On the plaintiff's claim, without any further ado, I am awarding her $1,836. Now, the only thing I'm going to hear from you, I don't want to hear anything about your cats.
Okay.
All I want you to do is tell me about your son being injured that she's responsible for.
Well, on January 23rd, she was taking my sons, Nicholas and Austin, to speech therapy.
Just 1 second. She picked the children up at your house?
Yes, she took them to speech.
Shh, I'm speaking.
Sorry.
Who was at home when she took the children for speech therapy?
I do believe my ex was. I'm not sure. I was at school.
Had you seen her at all that day?
Had I seen her? Yes, when she came home that night with the kids.
Prior to her coming home?
No.
Had you seen her the day before?
Yes.
Who advised her of the speech therapy appointments?
I probably did at the time, yes.
Of course you did. This person who you didn't trust with your children, who you didn't pay because she was not taking good care of your children, you told her when the speech therapy appointments were and what time she had to be there. So she was taking the children for their speech therapy appointments at your request.
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement?
Pretty much, yeah.
Good. So what happened?
Well, they were on an accident, or they were on a bus, public transit bus, on the way home from speech therapy. She let my younger son, Austin, run to the back by himself, left him back there. The bus got into an accident, rear-ended a car, and he went up in his seat. There was no one to grab him from hitting the seat, and he was injured in the accident.
Show me a medical report.
Here you go. I also have the statement from the accident, if you'd like that as well.
No.
Okay.
Did you retain an attorney?
No, we filed a claim with ICBC. It's the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia.
And what happened with that?
Well, because his father wouldn't take him to the doctor to have him checked out a second time, they won't settle it at all.
What was wrong with him?
He hit his neck and his shoulder and his back on the pole when he went up in the air. And they said that due to him being left alone, even if he does get anything, it'll be a very small amount because he was not being attended to properly.
Oh, baloney.
That's what...
Baloney. Now, if a public bus rear-ends a car and somebody is injured, then they are responsible. If there is an injury. If you're lying and there was no injury, that he got bumped around a little bit, then they're not going to pay anything.
No, they said that once the case has been settled, that he will get $800 or $900, but it will be in trust until he's 18. But
That's
his father
fine.
has to
That's
settle
all
it.
the case is worth. He got bounced around a little bit. If you were not satisfied with the plaintiff's services, you terminate her. You don't kvetch. I'm dismissing your whole counterclaim because I don't like people who come into court and lie. On your claim, I'm awarding you $1,830.
Tasha Thomas is suing her estranged husband, 27-year-old construction worker Marcus Thomas, for vandalizing her car in a fit of rage.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 230 on the calendar in the matter of Thomas versus Thomas. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Thomas, the defendant is your former husband, and according to your complaint, he purposefully vandalized your car. When did he do this?
August the 5th.
Where were you?
When the incident happened,
Yes.
I was at his mother's house.
Did he live there as well?
Yes, he does live there.
When were you divorced?
We are not divorced legally.
Because in your complaint, you say, my ex-husband. So he is not your ex-husband,
Well,
he is your husband.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have children?
Yes, we do.
How many children do you have? Two?
2 boys.
And you maintain a reasonable relationship with his family?
Somewhat.
What were you doing at his house?
His sister called me that morning to come over.
For what?
We was friends. Me and his sister was good friends. She had called me. Previous to that, me and Marcus was on the phone, had an heated argument over the phone.
What'd you have an argument with him about?
The kids, as usual. The children, we argued because I seen the kids with his father the day before that, and I didn't like the way that they had looked, what they had on. And so when I called him up, I know how we can't really get along. So I said, before you get mad or anything like that, you know how I am, before we argue, you know, I just want to ask you a question. And that's exactly what I did. I said, well, how come the kids, when I went to go see the kids, they had on clothes that was too small, their hair wasn't combed, and, you know.
Who has custody of the children?
I do.
So they were visiting with him?
They were visiting with their dad.
Take your hands out of your pockets. Okay, so you had a fight about that.
So we got into an argument about that.
And then the next day, his sister called and said, come on over.
His sister called, said, come on over. I came over there. Marcus comes walking through the door, and I was sitting down. He came over to me and walked over. What's up, B? I'm not going to say the word, what's up, B? I was still sitting there. He wasn't looking at me when he said it. So I wasn't, you know, I'm like, well, I know he's not talking to me. He comes over again. I said, what's up, B? So I stands up. I was like, you're a B. So he gets done yelling. He goes outside. He's out there a minute. I hear my alarm going off on my car. I go look outside. I don't see Marcus nowhere near my car. I don't see Marcus at all. I'm thinking that he maybe left. He's mad and he left. I come back inside. I sit down. I'm like, see, that's why I don't like coming over here, because of this. Right after that, maybe a minute, he comes back in the door. He continues yelling some more. We're still arguing, calling each other names back and forth as we usually do. It's a history with us. So he's yelling at his parents then. He's yelling at them, mad at them. While he's doing that, I get my keys, and I'm leaving. And he comes out. His sister comes out with me. His sister comes out. She's like, come on, Tasha, let's go around the corner and cool off. Okay, fine. We're leaving. He comes out behind us, and he's still yelling, I hate you, you ain't nothing but a B, and da-da-da, and all this. And I'm like, well, I hate you too, I hate you too. So I'm getting in the car to leave, and I rolled down my window to finish arguing with him. Why? I don't know, but I did. We're arguing some more. He comes over to my car like he's getting ready to sock me, but I'm rolling my window up. So he hits my window. I get out the car. Oh, you trying to hit me, Marcus? No, I ain't trying to hit you. Da, da, da. So we're just still arguing there, calling names. I get out the car. I go to my trunk like I'm getting ready to get something to, you know, fight him back with. And I'm like, no, because the last time I was here, last year, we had an incident before, you know, where I got hit and,
Why didn't you just drive away?
That's what I did after, you know.
Well, no.
Why didn't I drive away at the beginning?
You're in the car. You're exchanging words. You could have started the car and driven away. Why did you get out of the car and go to the trunk?
Because I was mad. I wanted to find a bat or something in the trunk to
And
fight
what were
him
you going
with.
to? And what were you going to do with it? You're going to hit him with it. So then what happened?
We're still arguing. I'm getting ready to drive off. He picks up a steel pole and just scratches my car. And I'm like, oh, you scratched my car? Liar. So I drive off after that. I turn around. His sister's in the car with me the whole time, seeing everything. We drive around the corner. I get out and I look. I seen the scratch that he did, and I seen the license plates and just like a little dent on my hood that I did. And I told Carrie to get out. I said, see what your brother did to my car? I have a witness. This is what he did. Get back in the car, go back around. I drop her off before we get to the house, so he's still out there. So I backs back up and I go to the police station to file a report.
Okay, let me see the car damage.
I have pictures before the car damage and after.
Okay.
Basically, she came to the house, and then I had showed up. We got into an argument, you know.
What'd you get into an argument for?
Because she called me, told me, don't get mad, and she was like, how dare you have my kids outside looking ghetto?
Just a second. Okay. But then she's at your house with your parents.
Right.
What happened when you came in?
I called her. It was like, why are you here? You don't like my family. You know, you never get along with my family. Get out. You know what I'm saying? And she's like, I don't have to leave, you know.
But it's your business. It's not your house.
I live there.
I don't care if you live there. It's your parents' house.
Okay. Yes, it is.
So she's there. Why did you come in and disrespect your wife in front of your parents?
I just was like, man, I didn't think that she should be there. If she hates my mom, she hates my dad. She always is causing conflict. And then,
why didn't you leave?
I don't know. Just because, I don't know. Because I was
all
mad.
right. So
no reason.
Then you went outside. What'd you do when you went outside?
I was just like, man, you know, have her leave. You know what I'm saying? I moved. I was in the street.
What did you do to her car when you went outside?
At first, I went by her car. I was mad. I started shaking her car. She came outside. Then she didn't do anything, so I pushed on the car some more. It was going doop doop. You know, made a little noise, and then she came outside.
You're talking about pushing the alarm.
Yeah, I tried to trick her alarm so she'll come outside, so she'll leave. Because I knew that would make her actually leave, because she loves her car. I mean, she's material. She loves it. So I was like, I know she'll leave. You know, so when I did that, she came outside. I was like, you're going to mess up my car? Oh, man, you da-da-da. Started screaming at me, too. So I was like, okay. And I was like, well, just leave. Just get in your car and go. You know, so she gets in the car. She's like, man, you try to mess up my car, I'll shoot you. I'll smoke you. Jumps out the car, goes to the trunk, opens the trunk up, and it's like, you don't want to get shot. I was like, Daddy, you hear that? She said she's going to shoot me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Natasha Thomas says her estranged husband, Marcus Thomas, vandalized her car. Marcus says Natasha threatened to shoot him.
She got back into the car.
Yes.
And you're still yelling at each other.
Basically.
Then you picked up a
pole.
Why?
I don't know. I was just angry because she said she was going to shoot me. You know
well, you knew she wasn't going to shoot you because she was in the car,
I
sir.
threw the pole at her before she got out the car. She said she was going to shoot me out the window. She said, I'll smoke you. So I threw the pole. I had a pole in my hand. And I threw it on the ground, and it bounced up and hit the door. That's when it made that scratch on the door. Then she jumped out the car and opened the trunk and was searching through her trunk like she was actually getting something. I don't even remember exactly what happened after that.
Can I see the estimates on your car, please?
There's an incident report, too.
What I find interesting, Ms. Thomas, is that you left out of your complaint the fact that you did, in fact, get out of your car and go and tell him that you were going to shoot him. How come you left that out of your complaint?
I didn't do it purposely.
Okay. Well, that was pretty stupid.
Yeah, it
right?
was stupid.
Right, because you could have gotten your car and just left. I mean, that doesn't excuse him
stupid.
damaging your car. You damaged your car. What year car is this?
2000.
What kind of work do you do?
It's concession stand manager at Safeco Field.
What kind of work do you do?
Well, I was working there, but they fired me because she said I harassed her, which I don't. So
No.
I work for a local 440 union doing construction.
It's going to cost $1,831.25 to fix this damage. You have a car?
Actually, I don't.
But you know she loves her car.
Yeah, she loves everything material, of course.
You had no reason, no right to put your hands on her car to trip the alarm.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah, it sure is. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,831.25.
Are you excused? You may step out.
She's just a bitter woman that needs to find a new life.
Marcus needs to be responsible, learn how to grow up.
She came to my house. She provoked me from the very beginning.
He has a problem with himself for taking care of his responsibility.
This is just one incident that she actually happened to win.
As far as us being civil, I hope that can happen for the kids' benefit.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Rosen versus Dina Cola. Step forward, please.
29-year-old computer consultant David Rosen is suing his ex-girlfriend, 26-year-old computer technician Maria Dina Cola, for an unpaid loan to move.
Mr. Rosen, your complaint alleges that you and the defendant were dating for a while, and
Yes.
you made a loan to her in the amount of $3,000, and that was in order to help her move.
Correct.
Tell me when you made this loan to her.
October 4th.
And how long had you been dating before you made this loan to her?
Approximately 6 months.
And tell me the circumstances surrounding the loan.
Well, first off, we met in a chat room on the internet, online, and she was moving into a new apartment, and at the time she had the money in her account, but she claimed that her father needed to borrow some money from her for some reason, which I don't really know. And so that meant that to make the rental deposit, she would need to take money out of her 401k, and I just couldn't have her take that money out for tax reasons. And so I wrote her the check for $3,000.
That doesn't sound like a loan.
We verbally agreed.
Now, tell me what you said to her and what she said to you. She said to you, I'm going to take the money out of my 401k. And you said to her, don't do that.
I said, and I don't remember the exact wording, but I said,
try as
on the
closely
condition,
as you can. Yes, don't tell me something. Don't tell me something I'm not going to believe, Mr. Rosen. Tell me something very believable.
Right. On the condition that she pays me back within approximately 2 weeks, that I will write this check to her. Now, actually, I do have the canceled check.
She doesn't dispute the fact that you wrote her a check for $3,000.
The canceled check actually has an item in the memo field that says that it was a loan. Yeah.
Just a minute.
There you go.
Show her this check, please.
That's the check he gave me, but the part about the loan for rental deposit was not there when I cashed that check.
That's possible.
That's not true. It was there when the check was cashed.
Mm-hmm. The pen is the same. Certainly the handwriting is the same. Now, you tell me about the circumstances surrounding this $3,000.
Mr. Rosen and I were in fact dating, and at the point that I was moving to a house, not an apartment. Not only did he give me this money, he co-signed so that I could move in. He paid for my moving expenses, he got me the truck and helped me move. The reason I moved, I was comfortable where I was. He thought that it was a better idea for me to move because he didn't like my neighbors. He expressed sentiments that were racially biased. He didn't like where I lived. He thought it would be better for me to move. Helped me to move, and like I said, co-signed for me to move in, took care of everything for me. Never was I mentioned this as a loan. After I moved in, he started to get more and more possessive and more trying to tell me what to do, dictating so far as what I should buy at the grocery store. And my witness here saw that he would. But the point I'm trying to make, Judge,
that's not true.
Mr. Rosen, don't speak to her.
The point I'm trying to make is that he gave me this money so that I would do what he wanted, and
Just
it was
a
not
second. I want you to tell me your version surrounding
the money.
The money.
Okay. There were some things going on in my life, and I did need the money.
For what?
Moving expenses and things like that.
Okay.
To move, to make sure that I was okay when I did move, get things that I needed when I moved, things like that.
Okay, and you didn't have the money.
No.
Why?
I have a child and I work, but I just didn't have enough. I didn't have that amount of money to move. It wasn't within my budget.
Did you in fact tell him that you were going to take money out of your 401k?
Yes, I did. We were dating. We spoke about what I was going to do. Was I going to take money out of my 401k? What should I do? At that point, he then said, I don't mind helping you out. Because at the time, I guess that was how he felt. There were other instances of him doing things like that, giving me money, buying me things.
I don't want to hear about other instances. That's not what we're here
In this instance, he did in fact give me the money. It was not a loan. I would not have taken the loan because I knew that I didn't have the means to pay it back.
No, it absolutely was a loan.
Mr. Rosen, don't speak. Now, on what date did you sign the lease?
To be honest,
think very hard.
I'm going to say the 14th of October. 14th or 15th of October was my move-in date.
That was your move-in date?
Yes.
I asked you when you signed the lease.
The day that I moved in, I signed the lease.
When had you found the house?
Right around the 1st of October.
And who went with you to find the house?
Mr. Rosen did. He actually did the looking on the internet for me, helped me find all the ones we went to look at, and he physically took me and we went.
Now, how much after Mr. Rosen gave you this $3,000 did you break up with each other?
I'm going to say December of that same year.
Where had you been living prior to moving into this house?
A condo, about an hour away from where I moved.
And how long had you been living there?
Approximately 6 months. It was nearing the end of my lease, so 6 months, ma'am.
When was your lease over there?
October of that year.
So you were planning on moving?
No, ma'am. It was just time to either renew or decide what I was going to do.
Actually, she was being kicked out for noise complaints of the place that she was living in at the time, and she needed to move. Also, as far as proof that this was a loan, I do have an email where she actually states that once she files her taxes, that she will that she plans to repay.
Thank you.
It's the part outlined in blue, the last line or so.
I dispute that I sent him an email because after we both...
Show this to the defendant, please. Seemed to indicate in that email that you planned on paying him back.
Can I respond? I did send him part of that email because he was stalking me, but the part about paying him back was not in the original email. I did not put that part in the email.
I did not modify that email at all.
Shh. Look at me. Don't look at her.
Sorry.
I did, that's a true statement. I did write most of that. I did not write about filing my taxes, only because I didn't get any taxes back and I knew I wasn't going to. I wrote that because he was constantly stalking me. And
what do you think he was stalking?
I was not stalking you.
What? Shh. Hey.
Sorry.
What do you think he was stalking you for?
At the time we broke up, he didn't want to break up. He said he used to leave me phone messages. Never once was there anything about owing me money.
Mr. Rosen, if you speak to her again,
I'm sorry.
Is the only part of this email, madam, that you claim that he distorted or added to the part about your taxes?
Yeah, because
All right. Then let me read to you what you said to him first. You said, my phone wasn't disconnected Friday because I was home all day and my mom and dad kept calling me and I'd been in the hospital the night before. Okay? You wrote that. Like I said, I will email you next week to let you know when you can get your money.
Can I tell you how that was altered? At the time...
That has not been altered.
Mr. Rosen!
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
You keep saying it, but you keep forgetting.
At the time, he had things in mind that he still has, and what we were supposed to meet to do was exchange those things. There was never any mention of the money. What that did say was that he has my rollerblades, which he still has. He has another pair of rollerblades he bought me while we were dating that he wouldn't give back. That's what that email was about. That's it.
Where is your copy of the email?
I don't keep emails. I mean, he keeps everything that's ever sent to him.
Good.
I don't.
Let us say that somebody, out of the goodness of their heart, because they feel as if you are strapped and you have a child, says, here, don't take the money out of your 401k. You'll have tremendous tax consequences. It'll be double that amount. Here's $3,000. And within a brief span of 8 weeks, you break up with each other. You say he broke up with you, you say you broke up with him. Then the right thing to do is to pay him back for $3,000. Doesn't that seem right to you?
Yes, ma'am.
So pay him. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Friend of yours, and it is your claim that she took your car without permission and wrecked it.
She didn't wreck it. She hit a curb and blew out a tire, and the transmission went out.
And Ms. Swartz says that she had an unfortunate accident and that she might clearly be responsible for replacing a tire, but certainly not the transmission, since she had your permission and this accident was clearly not her fault.
Well, she did not have my permission.
Good. So let's go back. When was this party that you had?
A couple of months ago. It was a Friday night. It was at my house, and
Listen, Mr. Panett, how old are you, sir?
23.
What do you do for a living?
I am a market analyst.
Ever been to court before, sir?
No, except for traffic tickets and...
Well, that's court. So, if you're a plaintiff and you have a claim, first thing you figure out is what date.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the questions get harder after that, Mr. Panett. So, a couple of months ago on a Friday night isn't a date.
I believe the date was December 14th, Your Honor.
That's a date. Now, it was on December 14th, 2006. Where were you?
At my house.
Who else was there?
I don't know the exact names, but a bunch of my friends.
And what were you all doing?
Drinking, watching TV, listening to music.
Great. Having a good time. Being responsible.
Yes.
What happened next?
Well, I didn't keep track of everybody around that night. I went to bed maybe around 1 or 2, and the next morning, Stacy called me and said that my car was broken down. I said, you know, how could that be? It should be in front of my house. And she said she was in Sunrise, which is about 20 miles away.
Where do you live?
Downtown Sacramento.
Go ahead.
She said it was broken down. She explained to me that she had taken my car the night before and that it had broken down the night before and that she had spent the night and was calling me in the morning. And I was...
Spent the night where?
at one of her friend's house, I assume.
Okay.
And I explained to her that she had better get my car back to me.
What kind of car do you have?
It's a Nissan Sentra.
Year?
1997. And she said she would. We exchanged words. I was a little upset, and then I fell back asleep. I didn't get my car back until the next day. She had it towed back to my house. At first, she hadn't even told me that a tire had blown out. I did see that for myself when it came to my house. Then she explained that to me. I had not given her permission to drive the car, so I was very upset.
Okay. Don't repeat anything.
Okay.
I have other things to do. Are you finished?
She had told me that she would pay for all damages. She was very apologetic at first, and I had it diagnosed, and she refused to pay it. She says she's not responsible for that.
And when you had it diagnosed, what was the bill?
It was $1,500, $1,593.83. I'd originally said $1,600. It's I'd rounded when I looked at the receipt. It's actually $6.17 less than that.
Mr. Panett, how did you pay for this?
My father loaned me the money to pay for it, actually.
Did you pay for it in check or cash, sir?
I believe my father used his credit card to pay for it, and I had to pay my father back.
What's your father's name?
John Panett.
His phone number?
It's in my cell phone. I'm sorry.
Fred, would you please get his cell phone so that we can get the father's number, please? Thank you. And he's going to verify that he paid this bill, sir?
Yes,
when I
he
call
would.
him on the phone? Good. We're going to do that.
Okay.
In a minute.
Okay.
Now, I'll hear you, Miss Swartz.
On December 14th, I was hanging out at Kip's house, and I asked him if I could borrow his car to go over to Jessica's house.
Where does Jessica live?
A few blocks from his house.
And he said?
He said yes, he let me borrow it.
Good. So you understand, Miss Swartz,
That's a different place than she was. Excuse me, Your Honor.
You do understand, madam, that you did have limited authority to take his car to go to Jessica's house, which is a few blocks away. You understand that?
Yes. Yeah.
Now tell me what happened.
I drove over to Jessica's house and told her that I was using Kip's car. And she called me at 5 o'clock in the morning and woke me up.
At Jessica's house?
Yes. And told me she was drunk and stranded in Sunrise. So I didn't even think to call Kip and ask permission because he let me borrow his car. He knew I wasn't...
No, my dear.
He knew I wasn't going to bring it back until the morning. So I...
Darling!
Yes.
You get it now? You look as if you're smart enough to get where I'm going.
Yes, ma'am.
You went to pick up your friend in Sunrise. And how far is Sunrise from Jessica's house?
Approximately 20 miles.
20?
Miles.
Miles, not blocks. Miles. And it was coming back with her, this drunken friend of yours, that you had the accident.
Yes.
Now tell me about the accident.
I was just driving and I was coasting, so I was in neutral. And then I tried to put it into gear and it would not go into gear. And I went to park immediately and I hit the curb and popped the tire. That was probably about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
You must have hit the curb very hard.
Well, yes, it was hard enough to pop the tire. And I immediately changed the tire. And since it was about 5:30 in the morning, my friend that I picked up just walked to her house because we were about a block away. And I slept in the car and called Kip about 9 o'clock in the morning to tell him that I was going to get his car towed back to him.
Let us assume that I believe you, that Mr. Panett said that you could borrow his car to go to Jessica's house, which is a few blocks away, to stay over. When you exceeded his permission by going 20 miles away the next day, you no longer had his permission. Do you understand that?
But he knew I was going to have it till the morning.
Don't tell me what he knew. He gave you permission, according to you, to drive it a few blocks. A few blocks is not 20 miles.
I have my witness here that saw him give me permission.
I just said, don't you have your listening ears on? I said, if I believe you, he gave you permission to take it a few blocks away. Once you took it 20 miles away, you no longer had permission.
Your Honor, he lets me borrow the car all the time.
That's not true.
Just a second. Where do you think you are?
Right here.
Where is here?
In this witness chair.
And until you stand up there, what are you supposed to do?
Listen to you.
Right. Once you exceeded the scope of the permission, you no longer had permission. That's the law. Do you understand it?
Yes.
So all I have to do is deal with the issue of damages. And for that, you're going to give me John's cell phone.
Yes, ma'am. Just let me power it up.
Power it up. John Panett, this is Judge Judy Sheindlin. How are you? I'm very well, thank you. Do you have a moment for just a couple of quick questions for me? I'm here, as you know, trying a case involving your son and this young woman who took his car without permission. Are you familiar with that? Okay. Did he ever ask you for any money to help him repair this car? When was that? 3 months ago. Do you remember how much it cost you, sir? Approximately. And did you use your credit card? Did he pay you back that money? I know, I have children. Did he tell you how it happened? That he needed a new transmission? Was he driving the car? Okay. Very good. And you used a credit card? Okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you taking the time. Bye-bye now. What a nice father you have, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And as a matter of fact, your father does remember helping you out and paying for this transmission a few months ago.
That's correct.
Do you know what he doesn't remember?
What?
He doesn't remember you paying him back.
Well, I owe him money pretty much all the time, and I am always paying him. So I'm in the process
that he
of
doesn't
paying him.
remember. I mean, he does remember laying this money out for you, but he doesn't remember the fact that you paid him.
I have not fully paid him back, Your Honor. I apologize.
Well, how much have you paid him, sir?
Well, I owe him a total of quite a bit more than that. So I guess if you got down to that bill, I haven't paid him any because I'm paying him for things that I owe him.
Well, you have no objection to making the check payable to your father, do you?
No, not at all.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,593.83 to be made payable to John Panett. Thank you very much. That's all. Palmucci is the girlfriend of your ex-husband.
Yes.
Ex-husband?
Yep. Yes.
Better. According to your complaint, you and your ex-husband got together and decided to purchase a used car for your daughter.
Yes, Ashley.
And each of you was going to contribute $400 to the car.
Yes.
According to you, you gave your husband $400 to buy this car. The car somehow was registered in the name of Miss Palmucci.
Yes.
Your daughter drove the car for a period of time, and then, for whatever reason, Miss Palmucci took the car back.
Yes.
You want your $400 back.
Correct.
Miss Palmucci said it was always her car. Step up, sir. What's your last name?
Mar?
How long have you and your former wife been divorced?
About 4 or 5 years now.
And how long have you and Miss Palmucci been together?
About 7 years.
So I assume you and your wife were separated for a long time before you divorced.
Yes.
How old was your daughter when you left the house?
Like 13, 12, 13, like that.
How old?
10.
10?
They're not always good with dates. Whose idea was it to get this used car for your daughter?
It was my idea.
Where did you find the car?
My niece had it. She was selling the car.
Did your wife, former wife, give you $400 towards the car? Look at me.
It was my understanding that check that she gave me was for the work I did for her at her house a week prior to that. And I gave $200.
How much was the car?
The car altogether was $700.
Did you have a conversation with your former wife with regard to her contributing to the car?
The only conversation that we had was with my daughter and myself and Mary about the car. There was no verbal conversation about the car between me and my ex-wife.
Did you have a conversation with your father about the car? Step up. Tell me your first name.
Ashley.
Ashley, tell me about when you had this conversation with your father about the car.
Well, I was at work and he called and asked me if I wanted to discuss with my mother about getting the car from my cousin.
Well, what specifically did he say?
He said, do you think your mother would go half in buying a car for you? I said, yeah, she would. So I went home and talked to my mother about it, and she said, yeah, that's a good idea.
Did your father tell you how much the car was?
Yes.
How much did he say it was?
$700.
And did you tell your mother how much it was?
Yes.
Who did you give the money to?
My ex-husband.
When?
I gave it to him on July 28th.
Did you give it to him in check or cash?
Check.
How much did you give him?
$400.
Why did you give him $400?
Because I was told that the car was $800, and later on, after I had paid it, my daughter had said it was only $700.
Did you originally tell your mother it was $800?
I think I might have.
What date did you get the car?
July 31st.
July 30th.
And when was the car taken back from you?
August 21st.
Mr. Marr, you did have a discussion with your daughter about her mother going half for the car. Unless you're calling your daughter a liar. Are you calling your daughter a liar?
Me and Ashley discussed it. We didn't discuss anything with my ex-wife.
Are you telling me that you didn't say to your daughter you think your mom would go half with me on a used car for you?
No, it didn't take place, that conversation.
Really?
Yep.
Tell me the work that you did for your ex-wife that you thought she was paying you for.
I put a liner in the pool and a skimmer also.
Did you arrive at a price with her?
No, it wasn't. We didn't compromise the price.
Well, how much did you spend for the liner?
I didn't spend for anything. She bought the liner and I put it in. I installed it and the skimmer.
How long did it take you?
Half a day, about 4 or 5 hours.
So what you're telling me, Mr. Marr, is you want me to believe, sir, that you thought that this $400 was your labor in putting in the half a day?
Yeah, that I paid my brother-in-law with the other $200. Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though you had not come up with an amount with your wife for what the job was going to be?
No, since she doesn't make that much money, I was just happy with whatever she gave me, that's all.
Mr. Marr, you're full of baloney, sir. Absolutely, positively, 100% full of baloney. If something doesn't make sense in this world, Mr. Marr, it's not true. If something makes sense, it's usually true. What makes sense is you having a discussion with your daughter and saying you think your mom would go half with me on a car for you, and giving her an inflated amount of $800 because that would have covered the tags and the registration, whatever it was to get it on the road. And she going to her mother and saying, would you do that? And her mother said, sure. And her mother hands you a check for $400. You don't even ask what it's for. You ask, don't know. It's for the swimming pool. It's for the liner. It's for the work. It's for the, I don't know what this is for. Thank you very much for the check. Then you register the car in your girlfriend's name. What happens to her $400 when you take back the car?
I didn't register the car.
She registered the car.
Because I wrote out the check for the $700, which I have, and I paid for everything else, including the insurance.
Then you got it, Miss Palmucci. He scammed you out of $400.
Who scammed me out of $400?
He did.
Really?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Because he got paid $400. So if you wrote out the entire check of $700 plus putting tags and registration on the car, then your boyfriend scammed you out of $400 because he got half of it from his ex-wife, which was supposed to pay
either
for
way,
the car.
the money comes out of a joint checking account, which him and I have, so he didn't scam me out of anything, so that's also where the check is deposited.
Yeah.
Into the account that we both have.
Let me see everything, please. I want to see all the paperwork, please. Going to resolve this right away. Why is the certificate of title all mangled?
Because she attempted to take it from my house and tore it in doing that.
Where's the car now?
In my driveway.
Who drives it?
Nobody right now.
Why not?
It's not registered, insured.
Does it still drive?
Yeah, it still
there's
drives.
nothing wrong with it.
Oh, good. You want to give him $350 for this car?
Sure.
Yes. Good, because that's all they paid for. They said they paid $700.
In addition to the insurance, the registration, the title, the amount that I had to have it towed in order to get the vehicle back.
Shouldn't have done that. Because
well,
you didn't get
the only
whole
other
story.
choice that I was given by the police department was that I should file a
You didn't get the
complaint of
whole
theft.
story, madam. The whole story was these two people have a child together. They decided to buy her a car. He's afraid to tell you that.
The conversation between him...
Try not to speak over me. You will not be successful. You got yourself in the middle of it, and you shouldn't have. But she's going to give you $350. You get the other $400 from him, because that's what she paid him for the car, and you're going to sign over the title to her right now.
I can't sign the title until after the other case goes to court.
What other case?
There's another case that's going to court on the 14th of November.
For what?
Her claim against him for assault.
Her claim against him for assault?
Here's the paperwork. You want to see that?
Can I see it, please? It has nothing to do with the title to the car.
It does. It's in there. It says that she went there and that she attempted to get the title to the car.
I gotcha. I gotcha. We'll give you a copy of this tape. You take it, you show it, and you indicate to the judge who hears that case, if a judge is going to hear that case, that you were directed to, and you have agreed and acknowledged to follow my direction. You're going to sign this over to her, and she's going to give you $350. Bird, have her sign it right now. You created a whole lot of trouble, Mr. Marr, by not being honest with the women in your life. Sign it.
sell it.
You have now purchased the car yourself. Do you understand?
Yes.
She gets $350. Now she's whole because she's going to take his $400 because they have a joint bank account. You got it?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
He owes you money for bail.
Yes, ma'am.
And that he agreed to pay you back once you had bailed him out, and he has declined to do so. Mr. Veloff says you made no agreement with him with regard to the bail money. You made an agreement with his wife. So if you want the bail money paid, get it from your daughter. That's your defense.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Veloff, how long have you been married?
13 years, 14 years?
13 or 14 years.
13.
You have children?
Yes, 2.
How many?
2.
When were you arrested, sir?
It was filed on July 4th, but I actually turned myself in on that Sunday, which would have been, I think, the 6th, 7th? Of July, I'm sorry.
7/7 of 06?
Yes.
Is this the first time you had been arrested, sir?
Yes.
And this was for domestic violence?
Yes.
And the domestic violence alleged that you either assaulted or threatened or harassed your wife?
Right.
Were you in or out of the house on the 7th of July?
In the house.
No. Okay. Mrs. Veloff, when did you complain about your husband's conduct to the police?
The incident of 4th of July.
Tell me about the incident.
We have been having marital problems for quite a while, and a recurring situation came up again that he was not working and taking care of his responsibilities. It escalated into a yelling argument that turned physical. Shortly after, well, the argument went on for quite a while. He was restraining me. I was not allowed. I was undressed coming out of the shower. He wouldn't allow me to get dressed. He wouldn't allow me to leave the master bedroom. Finally, when I did get out of the bedroom, I made it down to the lowest floor of the house, got a phone, and dialed 911. While I was on the phone with the dispatcher, he left the property. While he was gone, they dispatched 2 sheriff's vehicles to the house. They took my statement, took photos.
A copy of the statement, please. Do you have a copy of that police report?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay. They took photographs of what?
They took photographs of the marks on my body and the damage to the home.
What kind of marks did you have on your body?
My arms were bruised where he had grabbed me and forcibly threw me on the bed. My neck was irritated and red.
Your Honor, I do have a copy of the...
I'd like to see them. Where were your children when all this was going on?
There was a 4th of July community picnic that my daughter was at, and my son was outside playing basketball with a friend of his. I believe, well, he was in the driveway. I think they were playing basketball.
How old are your children?
14 and 12.
What's the status of this protective order?
The restraining order?
Yeah, what's the status of the case?
The case was dismissed.
When was the case dismissed?
It went to trial while my mother and I were in Italy for 2 weeks. It was dismissed because I did not show to testify.
Why didn't you appear to testify?
I was in Italy.
Why did you go to Italy during the trial?
It was already pre-planned, the trip. All of the subpoenas for me to appear were in my mail when I got back.
Your Honor, this was a 2-week Mediterranean cruise. We had planned 7 months prior to take all the kids and grandkids, everybody.
Got it. But, Ms. Veloff, after he was arrested, because he turned himself in, according to your mother's complaint, he called you and asked you to bail him out, right?
Yes.
How much was your bail?
$2,000.
And why did you think your wife would bail you out when she was the one who filed the complaint?
Well, I called her because it started getting really rough in the jail, and I've never experienced anything like that. And I called her.
How rough was it?
They found knives, shanks.
So you wanted out of there?
Yeah, and it was Wednesday night. The other inmates were starting to get their commissary or whatever they buy for the week, and a lot of it was like cold medicine, and they were chopping it up and snorting it, and I could see attitudes change, and it started getting really scary.
So you were frightened?
Yes.
So you called your wife?
Yes, I did.
And what did you say to her?
I asked her to call my dad to see if he would bail me out.
Why didn't you call your dad?
Why didn't I call my dad?
That's exactly what I said. Why didn't you call your dad? Why are you calling the alleged victim instead of calling your father directly? Don't you speak to him?
Yes, I do.
So then why didn't you call your father yourself?
The phone calls I was able to make were very limited.
Well, I understand they're very limited. I've been in the justice system a very long time. There's no reason that you're going to be able to give me that I'm going to be satisfied with, sir, as to why you didn't call your father yourself.
I don't know.
Ma'am?
Maybe your wife is going to tell me.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you call his father?
First of all, he called the house and spoke to our son, who then called me. So by the time I got the phone call, our son was frantic with worry, thinking that his father was in mortal jeopardy.
Okay.
And then I did go and call his father, and his father said no.
That's why you didn't call him.
No, that's not true. He
Otherwise,
said no, he
sir,
said
otherwise,
no.
sir, you know, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. How old is your son?
14.
Before I would involve my 14-year-old son in the fact that I was incarcerated and I was frightened for my life, I would call my father. If I had a decent relationship with my father and if I felt that my father would want to protect me, I certainly wouldn't involve my teenage child. That's not being a protective parent.
I did not know he was going to answer the phone.
What kind of just a second. What kind of dumb answer is that? What kind of a dumb answer? So because he answered the phone, you unloaded on him?
I didn't unload.
Well, of course you did. Okay. So now you're between a rock and a hard place. You got your 14-year-old child saying you got to do something to get dad out of jail. You got his father who says, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not putting up any money for him. You don't have any money, so you call your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you say, you got to help me out here. You got to help me out. And she goes down and she puts up the bond. That's so far what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you got out of jail, Mr. Veloff, who was there?
Who was there? My kids, my wife, and my mother-in-law.
And what did you say to your mother-in-law?
Thank you.
What else did you say to her? What else did he say?
And he hugged me, and he thanked me, and I told him two things. One, he had to get his act together, and two, because he didn't have a job, he had to pay me back, and he owned 2 cars, which he'd already told Tracy he would do. I expected him to sell one of the 2 cars.
To pay you back?
To pay me back
Just
for my
a second.
credit card. I'm sorry.
And did he pay you back?
No, ma'am.
Why should your mother-in-law pay your bail?
I didn't ask her to.
No, you didn't ask her to. That's absolutely right, Mr. Veloff. You did not ask her to. But you promised to pay her back. But you promised to pay her back. You didn't ask her to, and absolutely, if you hadn't said to her, I'm going to pay you back, that unfortunately for Miss Huff, there would have been no recourse. The truth of the matter is, at the time that she put up the bail for her daughter and her grandchildren. Because as far as she was concerned, you could have rotted in hell. I'm sure. I'm sure. If she didn't have grandchildren, that's probably what she would have said to her daughter. Let him stay there. But she has grandchildren, and you can't do that when you have teenage grandchildren. You can't say, listen, you're going to let your father rot in jail, so he's going to call here and he's going to complain that somebody's going to shank him. Mr. Veloff, as you see, sir, I have zero sympathy for your position morally, and I have zero sympathy for your position legally. If you had not told your mother-in-law that you would pay her back.
I promised to get my act together and get a job.
Just a second. Just a second. Did you get your act together?
Yes.
Did you get a job?
Yes.
Good. Now you have money to pay her back. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,020. That's all. Step out.
Years old, ma'am.
Did you ever live with him?
No.
This is your claim. The mother of your child, Miss Harris, is married to Mr. Harris. They've been married for how long?
3 years, Your Honor.
Do you have any children other than this child?
Yes, 2.
Your former girlfriend, you weren't married, is that right? And you spoke about the possibility of her husband adopting your son. And you thought about it for a while. Ultimately, you agreed that that might be a good idea. And you went ahead and hired a lawyer.
She hired the lawyer. She has to petition the lawyer.
You paid for the lawyer?
I did, because they said that they couldn't afford it.
She subsequently changed her mind.
Correct.
About the adoption, and you want that money back.
Correct.
Why did you change your mind about the adoption?
We never did change our mind, Your Honor. We simply moved out of the area. I had been searching for work for a good 4 years and couldn't find anything but maybe temp work or part-time. We couldn't afford to take care of our children, so we started looking elsewhere for work, and Oregon had a great rate of employment, higher wages, lower cost of living, so we decided to move there and then pursue the adoption when we got settled.
Mr. Carson, when was the last time you saw your son?
I believe it was about 3 years ago.
Why?
We just had such a lack of communication together, and she lived about 100 miles away, and it just made it real difficult for us to communicate together. And that was probably a lot of my fault, because I should have remained involved. Okay. But that's why the end result was the adoption.
Mr. Carson, when was the last time you supported your son?
I pay child support every month.
How much do you pay?
I pay $400 a month.
Is he up to date in his child support?
I think he's a little bit behind, but not much.
I believe him when he says he pays child support. So you're not able to use this lawyer?
Correct. What it ended up happening was I paid for the attorney, and then they sent me some documents, which I signed. It was just simple, one form that I had to sign to my release of interest, or whatever you'd like to call it.
Termination of parental rights.
Correct. And then it was on her. And about 6 months later or so, I contacted her attorney, and her attorney had said at that point she hadn't spoken with her, had no contact with her at all, and actually at that moment said, you know, I don't even think she's going to do this. Which is fine. I don't. If she doesn't want to do the adoption, I mean, I'm completely capable and okay with paying child support, you know, till he's 18 years old. But when she came to me with the idea of doing the adoption, and I agreed to it, I thought in good faith, when she said they couldn't afford it, that I paid for it, that they would go through with it. And then I called her and asked her why she wasn't doing it. It was at that point that she said it was because, you know, financially they couldn't do it.
So they needed your child support to help support the household.
Sure, correct. And also at that point, I had contacted Michelle to find out what was going on, and then she told me she was moving. According to our document, she has to give me 30 days written notice of moving. I had no idea she was going to move until I contacted her to ask her what was happening.
Well, that may be written into your contract. However, since you haven't seen your son in 3 years, it really doesn't make much difference. Mr. Harris, are you working now?
No, not at the present time. I'm
are you working now?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
For whom?
I work for a company that deals with clinical technology services for
How much
a
do
hospital.
you earn?
$15.25 an hour, and I support all 5 of us.
No, you don't support all 5 of you. He helps support all. When was the last time your husband worked full-time?
I would
where?
say it was for a landscaping company in Olympia, and it was a year and a half, 2 years ago.
We're not sure of the exact date.
Well, she says it's a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Well, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous?
It's ridiculous not to work when you have 2 children. When did you move?
We moved in March of '06.
So you moved from, just a minute, so you moved from one place where he can't get a job for a year to another place, and now he's still not working.
No,
Doesn't that
that's
clue?
not exactly correct. I worked for a company in Portland as a steam cleaner. I did that for 2.5 months. I also worked doing mill shutdowns for a temporary job. It's not like I haven't worked.
So I'm glad you're working. I'm glad everything is wonderful with you. The strong probability exists that they're not going to let you off the hook so fast.
Ma'am, can I add something, please?
Yeah.
The reason why they told me why he's having a hard time finding work and why they couldn't do the adoption is because when they moved to Portland, Michelle told me that he had a warrant out for his arrest. She told me that's what kept us from going into court. Her attorney told me that when they moved to
Just
Portland...
a second. Well, that's very easy to
Am I in
figure
jail?
out. Shh. Turn around. What was the warrant for, Miss Harris? I
had
didn't
an
speak
old
to you.
parole
I didn't speak to you. I said, what was the warrant for, Mrs. Harris?
His warrant was for parole violation from 1996.
When did you know about his parole violation?
We didn't know about it until we moved to Oregon. However, we discussed past legal issues with the attorney, and she said that that shouldn't make a difference. Also, just to clarify, we had no agreement with him to pay him back.
Well, but no, just a second. But you had an agreement to pursue the adoption.
Correct.
That's your agreement.
I didn't.
And
You wanted my
no,
son.
just Mr. Carson. Shh, Mr. Carson.
Sorry, ma'am.
I'm just saying, Your Honor, at no time had I talked to Mitch about the adoption.
Then you can sit down. Because you're not working anyway. She's working. She'll pay. Sit down. Sit down. You had an agreement with him that in exchange for giving up his parental rights, your husband would assume the parental responsibility, which includes support. And what happened was it became very secondary in your mind with all the other trouble that you have. You have now 3 children in your house. You're working at $15 an hour. Not great. But you can't do that. If he's giving you the money to pay for the lawyer, which he did, because you agreed to pursue this matter and then change your mind, in my mind, you've breached an agreement with him.
We never made an agreement to...
Just a second. That's why you're here.
We never said we wouldn't do the adoption, Your Honor. Circumstances
Then when you...
stopped it.
Listen to me. When you move back to the jurisdiction where he can use the lawyer that he paid for, you could sue him for the money. Right now, you're going to pay for the lawyer. How much was it?
The total amount that we ended up paying the attorney was $1,062, ma'am.
We weren't living off of his child support. We honestly wanted to do the adoption.
Well,
and
listen
when we
to me,
moved,
Miss Harris. You've been married once?
Twice. This is my second marriage.
You weren't married to him so that you had, I would consider, 3 relationships. 2 marriages, 1 relationship. Is that fair? You have 3 children?
Yes.
How old are you?
I am 34.
The likelihood of this man celebrating your 25th wedding anniversary is 0. So that, as far as I'm concerned, it would be very unwise for him to adopt this child. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,062.
Thank you, Your
That's
Honor.
all. Apartment, lived together during the course of that lease. The lease was renewed, according to you, for another 6 months, and Mr. Fenimore moved out after a month or so. You want him to be responsible for his half of the remainder of the lease. Mr. Fenimore, while he acknowledges that you signed an initial lease together, his defense is that he did not sign the renewal that you must have signed for him. You knew that he was intending to leave, that things weren't going well between the two of you, and he is not responsible for the second part of the lease. So can I see the first lease that you signed? When did you move in together?
It was, I believe, December 2004.
Well, the lease was signed November 2005.
I think it was 2004. I'm not real correct on that.
Well, what am I looking at? November 29, 2005. What?
That's probably our renewal lease.
I didn't ask for the renewal. I asked for the original lease.
This isn't the actual lease, but it's part of the first lease that has the 12/8/04 date that Spencer was speaking of.
Can I see it, please? Okay. So the original was signed on 12/8/04, and you claim the renewal was signed by him on November 29th, 2005.
That's correct.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you sign the renewal?
Yes.
You said in your answer you didn't sign the renewal.
I signed the renewal that went from November 2005 until May 2006. She's suing me from May 2006 to November 2006.
Got it. So who has that renewal?
The one that I handed to you shows that we went in the office and verbally renewed, and I have a letter from the office dated June 1st.
You can't verbally renew. Cannot verbally renew a 6-month lease. That's ridiculous. He says he did not renew the lease. You have no proof that he did renew the lease.
If he didn't want to renew the lease, Your Honor, he shouldn't have stayed there till July.
Because then you can have a month-to-month tenancy.
Okay.
You can have a month-to-month tenancy and pay every month until the landlord says, listen, I don't want to give you a month-to-month tenancy anymore. You have to leave within 30 days. Then you leave.
Right.
But you can't obligate him. Sorry, case is dismissed. When she moved out, she took half the furniture in the apartment that you had both purchased on a credit card.
Correct.
You're stuck with the credit card, and she took half the furniture.
Correct.
Ms. Simpson says she did not take half the furniture.
Correct.
She only took a bed.
A bedroom set.
Bed. And she left items there that are worth far more than the bed that she took. Now, when did you move in together?
February of 2005.
Was it a 1-year lease?
It was actually 15 months.
And when did you move out?
I left the last weekend in January.
And that was by agreement?
Correct.
When did you purchase the furniture?
February of 2005.
What did you purchase?
She purchased a bedroom set. I purchased a bedroom set.
When you say she purchased a bedroom set and you purchased one, were they purchased on 2 different credit cards or 1 credit card?
No, they did a joint account for both of us. So we were both liable for it.
Okay. Continue.
I also purchased a living room set, and she purchased her bedroom set, which included a bed, a dresser, an end table, a mattress. I purchased the same thing, plus a living room set, which included a couch, a coffee table, an ottoman, and a love seat.
Okay, go ahead.
One night, I came home, and I saw her and her friends playing quarters on my brand new coffee table. I confronted her about it.
When you say you purchased the living room furniture,
yes,
were you jointly paying the bill with her?
We had separated her cost from my cost, and we came up with an agreement that she would pay me $60 a month for her portion, and then I would pay the rest.
She only has responsibility for the bedroom furniture.
Correct.
And that's all that you're suing for.
Well, also, as the time went on, as we were living together, I found things missing from my room.
I don't care about things missing from your room.
Well, I had to purchase a lock to put on there, and I came home with her playing games on my...
Listen to me. I don't care if you had to put a lock on your room. I read it. You had to put a lock on your room for $2?
It was actually 15. Yeah.
In the scheme of things, you're talking about nothing.
Well, I had things missing from my room. Shirts, underwear I had missing from my room.
Good. I'm not bothering with that.
Yeah. Okay.
You had other people living there, other people staying there, other people staying over. Don't bother me with nonsense. You hear about furniture.
Well,
Don't throw in the kitchen sink to a lawsuit because judges get irritated, especially this one. Okay. How much was your bedroom furniture?
The whole set together was around $1,300. It was like $1,300 and some change. Actually, Honor, I have the evidence that hers was $1,412. That would be including the tax, probably.
$1,412. And how much of that did you pay, Miss Simpson?
I started paying her when I moved out. Like I said, I left a TV there that I had purchased for $500. There's also entertainment center, dishes, mirrors, things of that nature that were there that I had left there that I didn't take.
Just a second. Did you have, Ms. Simpson, any agreement?
Yes.
With, listen, you're not letting me finish my sentence. Did you have an agreement with Miss Miller that in lieu of paying Bill $1,412, you were going to leave items in the apartment?
No.
Then I'm not interested in what you left.
But that's where I was going with this. I had moved out of the apartment and had paid her $55 for so on months. Then
just a second.
It was.
So that you talk
I
very.
didn't start. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
You paid her $55 a month for how many months?
It was for 6 months.
Okay.
No.
Shh, just a second. $55 a month for 6 months.
Yes.
Okay, that would be $330.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Then I'm a waitress, so I make all my money in tips, and I was paying her in cash. A incident arose with my mom when she pointed out that it was both my name and Miss Miller's name on the contract. So if I was paying her the money, how would I know that she was paying it to More Furniture? So I went into More Furniture and wanted to separate my name for her name on the account. They told me I was not allowed to do that.
Correct.
And that if we didn't pay off the money by the date with no interest, we would have to pay all of the back interest. When I brought this up to her, she did not want to give me receipts for the back payments, nor she had also moved out of the state and had given me a P.O. box where I could send her money, but I wasn't getting anything in return for paying her money. So my agreement was, well, if you're not...
What do you mean your agreement?
Or my side of it was, if you're not going to be proving to me that I'm paying you and give me a copy of the statement, then I will pay the money directly to More Furniture, but not to you.
So
you don't
did you
need
do
to be
that?
the middleman.
Did you do that?
No, because she hasn't been making the payments. They told me that...
Don't tell me what they told you.
Okay.
Do you have your statement?
Yeah, I have all the statements right here.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Here's the statement.
Sorry. How much money, if any, did she give you after she moved out?
$320.
No, she's making the payments.
Well, and this is my issue is, like you said, my furniture and her furniture is together, and there wasn't a minimum payment. So when or if it's not paid off, it's still gonna hurt my credit. That's what I'm saying. I have no problem paying the furniture. That's not the issue. I will pay the furniture and More Furniture. It was contacting Leah to make the payment.
But right now it's more than $1,412 because right now they've added interest.
Right.
Right.
But they won't separate us from each other. That's why.
So there's just a second. Well, she's paying something. You're paying nothing.
Sure. No, and I understand that. But
but you have to pay something, madam. Where are you sleeping?
Well, I have a house.
You're sleeping on the bed.
Yes.
So you have to pay something.
I understand that. But I have an agreement with More Furniture to pay the furniture.
I don't see that. Where are you standing there all by yourself with a big smile? Where is the agreement that you have with More Furniture?
I can't get a copy of it because my name and her name's on it without her permission.
Just a second. So how can you have an agreement without a copy of the contract?
Well, that would be the original contract.
No.
Okay.
1,412 less 320 is $1,092.
Can I say something?
Sure.
In the months that I have been paying it, I've had to pay extra, and I was working 2 jobs. I know it's $60.
That's good for you.
But I have had back payments and all this stuff that I've had to come up with.
Good. That's what happens when you act stupid and take out a joint credit card with somebody. She owes you $1,092. And as soon as you receive that money, you will sign an agreement with her that the court will prepare that you are totally indemnifying her against any claim by Miller Furniture for this furniture, and they can deduct forthwith from your salary or your income tax refund, if any. Okay. You do work, don't you?
Yes.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,092. Wait around to sign the contract. Thank you. Who was the basketball player? What's your first name?
Keith.
And yours?
Michael.
Your arm got broken in school.
Yes, ma'am.
Your arm got broken when he bumped into you.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened.
Well, I was trying to get into the game, and pretty much...
When did this happen?
March 17th of 04.
You were trying to get into what game?
In PE that day, it was pretty much a free day, and I was trying to get into the game, and they were pretty much just shoving me off.
Who was?
All the players. So I would steal the ball and run away with it, trying to be funny, and all the players would chase me.
So what I'm hearing is neither team wanted you to play that day, so you decided to play class clown and steal the ball and interrupt their game.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened next?
Well, all the players pretty much chased me down and eventually got it from me, and while I was standing in the crowd, he gestured for the other players to clear a path to me, and when he did, he tossed the ball at me. And whenever I saw it was coming at me, I just tensed up and turned, and it hit me in my left hip.
Didn't hurt you?
No, ma'am.
And then what happened?
I just sort of walked up to him. Behind him was a gym mat, pretty thick and soft. So I wrapped my arms around him and purposely fell onto the gym mat. Everybody was laughing, and he did the same thing to me. And
you wrestled him, then he wrestled you to the ground, to the mat.
It was not an act of anger.
Okay. So you weren't angry with him?
No, ma'am.
And you don't think he was angry with you?
No, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened next?
Well, there was a rolled-up gym mat close to the compacted bleachers to the wall, and I got in between that, and just for the thrill of not being seen, and about 10 or 15 minutes.
I don't understand what that means. Just for the thrill of not being seen.
Just a childly...
No, but what were you doing?
Nothing.
You mean you were hiding?
Yes, ma'am.
Who were you hiding from?
Nobody.
Keith.
Yes, ma'am.
So far, I'm getting a whole good story. I love this story so far. He wasn't angry with you, you weren't angry with him, but now you're hiding someplace, and you're not hiding from anybody.
Well,
that doesn't sound like you could...
Well, I mean, me and my friend Anthony were both doing it, and he was behind another one to the right of me, and about...
What were you doing?
Just hiding.
Just hiding?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And, well, I tried to get out, and I pulled... It was kind of tight in there, so I was trying to wheeze my way out, and I pulled my my left arm across my chest, and about that time I just felt the mat be shoved into me.
The mat being shoved into you by...
By Michael.
And that's how you broke your arm?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Michael, what happened?
I ran the mat. I wasn't intentionally trying to break his arm. I was just horseplaying with him, like we were earlier. And
so you were horseplaying?
Yeah.
You knew he was there?
Yes, ma'am.
You knew he was there?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Peters, your defense to this says, let me read it so that I make sure I get your language clear. I told her that with children, and particularly with boys, these things happen.
Yes, Your Honor.
Explain that to me.
The reason I said that boys will be boys and that it wasn't my responsibility to pay for the bills was because it was an accident. He didn't mean to do it.
It wasn't an accident, Ms. Peters. That's your problem, you see. If your son was playing a game and during the course of the game he ran into this structure, not intending to come into contact with Keith at all, but it was during the course of a game and he was at a place where he could get hurt, that's an accident. But that's not what your son told me. Your son told me he saw him there and he was just fooling around with him and rammed him. Unfortunately, when he rammed him, his arm was in such a position that it broke. Right. So his action, not in breaking his arm, I don't think he intended to break his arm, of course not. But he intended to hit him. And for that, he is responsible. Just as if his leg, when he tackled him to the mat, horseplay. But when young people are involved in horseplay, and if you had broken his leg, who would have been responsible?
I would have.
You're right. What were your medical expenses?
Before or after insurance?
After insurance.
After insurance, the total was $706.07.
I'm not saying that your son bears any responsibility with regard to this incident, but I believe he has to know that when 10 people are playing basketball, you're not supposed to act like a jerk, right?
Yes, ma'am. We've already established that.
Good. You know, Michael, sometimes when you do the wrong thing, things happen. There are consequences, even those that you don't anticipate. You got to start being a two-process thinker and say, listen, if I do this, this could happen. It's not worth it. Being a fool is not worth it. Being a fool isn't worth it. How long was your arm in a cast?
6 weeks.
And this happened in March, so it was during school.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't even get to relax. When did you get the cast off?
I'm not sure.
End of April.
So you got a chance to enjoy the summer.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You still friends?
I think so.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. Judgment for the plaintiff in that $706. So, trip that didn't work out as well as you expected. Ms. Ward decided to stay home.
Yes.
And she left you in the lurch with the lease. You want her to pay the rent. In addition, you say that she stole some money from you and that she some point damaged your car. You wanted to pay for that.
Yes.
Miss Ward says she was pregnant, decided to stay home with her parents, I assume, that she denies taking any of your money, and she says that the damage to the car just didn't happen. She also says that your boyfriend moved in with you into the apartment and he wasn't paying his fair share of the rent. So, is this your boyfriend?
Yes.
How many people signed the lease to the apartment?
2, me and Holly.
Did Holly have a boyfriend living with her?
No.
But your boyfriend was living with you?
He wasn't living there. He was.
Yeah, he is.
yes,
he lives
he was.
there. He lives there. Don't tell me he wasn't living there. He lives there.
Okay.
Don't speak unless I speak to you. You want me to get the address that you listed, sir, when you filled out the forms for this program?
Yes.
Do you want me to get the forms that you filled out with the address?
I put 718.
And who lives there?
My mother.
What's your mother's phone number?
She doesn't have a phone.
Oh, everybody has a phone,
But
sir.
there's a number you could reach her at, but she don't have a phone herself.
You get what I'm saying to you, madam?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. When did you sign this lease with the defendant?
On December 1st, 2006.
And when did you take this road trip?
In the beginning of April. Like April
15th.
Where's the father of this baby that you're having?
In Ohio.
And where are you living now?
Alabama.
Who went on the road trip?
The 3 of us.
Whose car did you use?
Amanda's.
You got stopped and you were all arrested for drug possession, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
What happened with your case?
I had 2 years probation.
What about you?
I just got charged as a misdemeanor and got fined. She got charged with all that because she was pregnant.
I got charged
Doing
with a
drugs while
misdemeanor
she
and got
was
a
pregnant.
we all 3 got, well, me and Amanda got charged with possession too.
And what about you?
I did 31 days because wouldn't nobody sign for me.
No, he got 30 days because he had prior possessions.
No, I got 30 days. That is untrue, Your Honor.
Now, what is the rent?
It's $500 a month.
Stand up. Your last name?
Lucky, L-U-C-K-E-Y.
I'm not so sure.
I heard that.
Who do you work for?
I work for Ford.
What do you do for them?
We call offices.
What kind of work do you do, Miss Peters?
I'm a waitress.
Fine. Mr. Lucky,
Yes.
you may have to kick in for some rent, sir. Do you understand?
I wasn't standing there at the time.
Well, now
Yes, he was.
Now, just a second.
No,
Just a second. Now you can stay there.
Well, she shouldn't have signed
Lucky,
my lease.
Mr. Lucky, when did you arrive from Ohio?
We arrived Tuesday.
You arrived Tuesday.
Yesterday.
Shh.
Yes.
And where are you staying?
I'm staying at the Sheraton Hotel.
And where are you staying, Miss Peters?
At the Sheraton Hotel.
In the same room?
Yes.
And when you go back to Ohio, you're going to go back and stay with your mother. Is that what you're telling me?
And yes.
I'm
after
giving you
this case
permission. You
matter.
could stay with Miss Peters.
I didn't
And now
want
you're
to stay
going to
with
pay.
her because
And now
of
you're
this
going to pay
issue.
the rent. Sit down. Who brought the marijuana into the car?
All 3 of us did.
That wasn't mine.
No.
All
Holly
3 of
did.
us did. All 3
Holly
of us
did.
did. We all 3 went to jail for the possession.
It's not what I asked you. I said, who brought it into the car?
Holly.
Holly.
Lucky. I didn't. Lucky sells marijuana.
Okay.
That's
No,
his
no,
job
that's
prior
a lie.
to
That's
2
not
months
true.
before. He didn't have this job now.
That's a lie. She
Now,
made that up.
shh. Now, when is your baby due?
I already had him.
You already
June
had your baby.
29th, yes.
And who's taking care of your baby now?
My mother.
Baby healthy?
Mm-hmm.
You weren't stupid enough to smoke marijuana while you were pregnant,
Actually, I
were
was.
you? Yeah.
That's how she got 2 years.
That's
Was drinking and a whole bunch of other stuff she
I
did
didn't
while she
drink
was
with my
pregnant.
baby. My baby was perfectly
Yes, you
healthy,
did.
born 4 weeks early, didn't need anything. 6 pounds, 8 ounces.
great. Okay. So now, Miss Peters,
Yes.
now you have your boyfriend living with you. How big is this apartment, by the way?
It's a 2-bedroom apartment.
Well, Your Honor, at first, when I first moved in with Amanda, it was in March of 2005. Lucky moved in June of 2005. We were all living in a 1-bedroom apartment. Then his cousin moved in, Lewis, with his baby mama, Shataya. We all 5 lived there. I still paid half the rent.
Just
they
a
didn't pay
second.
nothing.
No.
Just a second. How long?
And
Quiet.
and his cousin got a job at our job.
Just a second. How long did his cousin and his
They lived
baby
there.
mama live there?
They lived there
What?
from October till December when we got our 2-bedroom and they got their 1-bedroom apartment.
What's your cousin's name?
My cousin's name is Lewis, and he was not living there.
Yes, he was, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
listen, I am
he'll
very,
manage
very
everything
unhappy
else.
about
Yeah.
this whole situation. All I can tell you, Miss Peters, is now you can have your boyfriend full-time. Your boyfriend of 6 years full-time. He's going to live with you and he's going to pay the rent. You get nothing from her. Next. Now, let's talk about this stolen money. You say that she stole money from you.
Yes.
You
No,
know
from
this.
her and her
Shh,
boyfriend.
I don't want to hear you.
Okay.
I'm not happy with you either. Anyone who smokes dope while they're pregnant is an idiot. Now, tell me about this alleged money.
All right. I gave my boyfriend $300 to put up for me. I was going to put my car in the shop and have some work done to it. Well, I picked him up one night. He was going to come spend the night with me. The wallet came up missing that night while he was at the house. Yeah, I went to drop him off the next morning, and the wallet wasn't there.
And
he said it was Holly all along. I mean, I really didn't think it was at first, but I found the wallet in her room when I was cleaning it out after she left.
Where's the wallet?
It's right here.
Let me see it.
Can I?
Shh.
Okay.
When, for the first time, did you tell Holly about the missing wallet?
I didn't tell her.
You didn't tell her?
No, she was in Alabama when I found it.
You didn't call her?
No.
No, I'm not saying when you found it. Listen to me. Miss Peters, when the wallet came up missing, she had to have been there. Otherwise, how could she get it? Not from Ohio to Alabama.
No,
she has
it
that
was
very
months
long
ago.
arms. Now, so when did you first discuss with her the fact that this wallet was missing?
Oh, it was around the time when we moved into our two-bedroom apartment. So
And how
around
long did you live
December-
in the two-bedroom apartment?
I'm still there now. So from December until now.
How long did she live there?
Until April 15th.
So the wallet came up missing in December.
Yes.
And you found it when?
When I came back May 9th or 8th, I mean.
Yeah, do me a favor. Return that to her. Tell me about the damaged car.
She damaged my car, parallel parking it.
When?
In November, the first week of
November
November.
of 06?
Yes, ma'am.
Show me the bill where you had it fixed.
I haven't gotten it fixed yet. I haven't had the money. But I have an estimate from where we both took it in. She came with me when I
No.
got the estimate.
Oh, well, tell me how it happened.
Oh, she parallel.
I didn't ask
He
you.
was in the car. I wasn't in the car. She asked to borrow my car one day, and she brought it back with these scratches on the front bumper.
Let
he
me
was
see
in
the
car.
pictures of the front bumper. How did you scratch the bumper?
I didn't scratch the front of her car.
Who did?
Lucky. He was on his way to school in November, and at a red light, he hit the back of another car.
I have a picture of the
That's a
truck that she hit also with the dent in the bumper
Just a
where
second.
she hit
She
it.
says it was Lucky.
That's
It
a lie,
wasn't.
Your Honor.
She went with me when I got the statement.
I did not go with her. I was at work when she got that statement done with
She,
Lucky.
she had borrowed Amanda's car, and I needed to go home that following morning.
He was
And
living
she
with
had-
us. Why would I take him home?
don't want you to interrupt. If you interrupt again, it's not going to be good for you. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So on the way taking me home to my mother's house, she was trying to parallel park in front of another car, and she hit the back.
On the way, she was trying to parallel park?
No, when we got to my mother's house.
Why park if she was just
Because
dropping you off?
Because she was parking to drop me off.
Why was she parking to drop you off? Why didn't you just come?
She was the driver.
I don't believe it. Goodbye. You all deserve each other. That's it. Case is dismissed. Take him outside for a
Julie and David Cotton are suing family friend, 18-year-old Dylan Strittmatter, for crashing a golf cart during their wedding reception. Dylan claims he is not guilty.
Who was getting married?
Julie and I.
According to your complaint, Miss Cotton, your family lives on the river.
Correct.
Is that where the wedding was?
Yes.
The defendant is the son of an old family friend, and because there was so much land and the venue was spread out, you rented 2 golf carts to sort of help people get from one place to another, especially people who might have been a little older. Those golf carts were just rented for the event. It is your claim that the defendant, without permission, drove one of those golf carts and damaged it. You're being charged by the rental company for the damage to the golf cart, and you want him to pay for it.
Correct.
Who saw Mr. Strittmatter riding the golf cart?
Tristan Hall.
How old are you, Mr. Hall?
18.
What do you know about Mr. Strittmatter and the golf cart?
Well, I was the guy in charge of taking people to and from the parking to the wedding, and we were at the reception.
At the golf cart, with
Right.
a golf cart.
Right. And after the wedding, we went to the reception, and we had the 2 golf carts parked over there. And we were all sitting around eating, and I saw him take off in the golf cart, and we just went out. I went out there after him to see what.
Saw who taking off?
Dylan and Greg.
That's Dylan would be you?
Yes.
And who's Greg?
I'm Greg.
Perfect. I love it. No, I didn't ask you to go over there yet.
Well,
I didn't ask you to go over there yet.
Okay. That is a lot.
I didn't go over. Go ahead.
Okay, so I went out there, and we were just riding. We were riding around for a little while.
Who was riding around?
Me, Dylan, and Greg.
How did you get on the golf cart?
Because I went out there. When I saw him riding around, I walked out there.
So you walked outside, and the three of you got on the golf cart.
Right. Well, they were on it first. I went out there after they were already on it. I went out there.
Who drove?
They were driving. We all took turns driving.
Who drove first?
Tristan drove first, but there's also a fourth person in the party. Their son Chase was also in the golf cart, and he also drove it with us.
Is that right?
Chase was in the golf cart, yes.
So who drove first?
I guess I drove first.
Who drove second?
Chase drove second.
Who drove third?
I drove third.
All right, what happened next?
Okay, so we're driving around, and we were just driving around with the golf cart, and after a little while, I said, okay, we should probably bring this back. So we were on our way back down this road, and that's whenever he thought he could make it through these two rocks, if that's what you want to call them. They were more like boulders, and then he just ran into one of them.
Now, did you know you weren't supposed to be driving around in that golf cart at that time?
In the back of my mind, I did.
And did you know you weren't supposed to be Hey, did you look at me? Did you know you weren't supposed to be driving around in the golf cart at that time?
Yes, I knew that.
Did you know you weren't supposed to be driving around at that time? And I assume he wasn't supposed to be driving around that time.
That's correct.
So what are you suing him for?
Because he had been drinking at the wedding at my mom's, and I had told him to put it down, and I saw them take off, but mind you, I'm in the middle of my reception, and I heard them, and so did my friends, hear them screaming, come on, let's go get on the golf cart. It was just those two, and they were drunk at our wedding. They did take it. The owner of the...
Your son was there. How old is he?
13.
What'd you do to him?
Actually, both of my sons had told them, and so had Tristan, to stop, and he
They
was
were
driving
driving
erratically.
around in the golf cart.
Well, a little more than driving. He was driving erratically.
Just a second. Where do you think it's all his responsibility?
Because he was told to put it back, and he didn't.
Who told him to put it back?
All of them.
They did not. They were driving around with it. They did not tell him to put it back. What are you, nuts? Listen, Miss Cotton.
Yes.
If you're telling me that you saw them get in the golf cart and drive around with it, and you didn't leave your reception to go and stop them from driving around with it.
My oldest son actually did.
He's not here. You, not your son. Your 13-year-old was in the golf cart.
Right, but my oldest son also took the keys from them.
Did you see that?
No, but they all told me, and the
They
owner
can't
of the
tell
golf
you anything,
cart.
Miss Cotton. You have a responsibility. A golf cart is an attractive nuisance. That's what it is for young people. That's why your 13-year-old got in the
Well,
golf cart.
he admitted to wrecking it and told us he was sorry.
They were
and
all involved in it. If anything, he's responsible for a quarter of it, not for the whole thing. Your son is responsible, therefore you're responsible
My
for a
son
quarter.
is 13.
He's responsible for a quarter. He's responsible for a quarter. He's not responsible for the whole damage to the golf cart. They shouldn't have been in the golf cart to begin with. And if you saw them and you're the grown-up, you should have seen to it that they weren't in the golf cart.
Can I say something?
Listen, if you knew he was drinking, what's the drinking age where you are anyway?
21.
If he got hurt and he had been drinking at your wedding, he would have owned that house on the river.
I can't control him. He's not my child.
Oh, yes, you can. You can put him out of your house.
He wasn't at our house. It was an open field. We weren't there. He went off in a different area.
Miss Cotton, it's your responsibility when you have an event to ensure that there is no underage drinking. And based upon what you tell me, you saw him drinking and drunk at your wedding. You then saw him get into a golf cart and drive away. And it was your reception, and you couldn't do anything about it because you didn't want to leave the reception. That's what you told me.
I didn't see him get in. I heard them say they were going to do it and take off, and people were
Miss
sent
Cotton, I'm
after
getting
them.
less and less sympathy for you. I mean, that doesn't give him any right to do that. And he's going to pay for 1/4 of the damage. But I have less and less sympathy for you. You planned a wedding, and you had a bunch of kids, including these two people, not only the defendant, who were drinking at your wedding. And that's your responsibility. You are responsible for the venue. That's what the law says. And if they had gotten into a car instead of a golf cart, and instead of going between a boulder and scratching your golf cart, which is what he did, he got into his car and he killed somebody, you know who they'd come after? You. That's what the law says.
I didn't serve him the alcohol, and he stole
You
it.
did serve him alcohol.
did.
Duh.
Actually, we didn't serve him the alcohol.
You did serve him alcohol.
Well, I mean, it's in a bar area. Anybody can walk to the bar and get it.
He didn't get it from the bar. He did go and take it.
Did you get it from the bar?
Actually, there was a fountain outside the wedding reception that had
Right.
wine, and there was a cup there and cups, and you could just go in and pour yourself some.
And did you not look at me and I told
Just a
you to
second.
put it down?
Just a second.
Oh,
Is
yes,
that what
you
you're
did,
telling me?
Ellen.
Then what you do is when you have children and you have open alcohol, you ensure that the children who are there don't drink the alcohol.
Well,
Miss Cotton, you're going to talk to me. You, me. Maybe you're used to getting the last word. I'm trying to tell you, 16 years of education and 30 years in the judicial system, it's your responsibility to ensure no underage drinking at your venue. Do you understand?
Yeah.
How much is it going to cost to fix this golf cart?
$1,119.35.
Your responsibility is $279, young man. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $279, only because you have to accept a certain amount of responsibility. Think that's reasonable? Sure. Good. That's all. Former daughter-in-law.
That's
She's
correct.
married to your son. How many sons do you have?
2.
I assume only one of them is incarcerated. Is that right?
One was old enough to be incarcerated, correct.
Where's the other one?
He's only 8.
Well, still got time.
Hopefully not.
Anyway, the one who's incarcerated is Miss Christensen's husband.
Yes, ma'am.
And they are in the process of, I assume, divorcing.
Yes, well, at the moment, he's not incarcerated.
Where is he?
Right now, I have no idea.
Well, maybe his mother knows, but I'm not particularly interested in that. Your lawsuit says that you loaned Miss Christensen some property, a washer and a dryer, when she and your son, and you want the washer and dryer back or the value of that property, and also you say that you loaned her $125 at some point because she needed money for rent. Miss Christensen says that these were wedding gifts that you gave to her and to her husband, that the reason you came back for them and the timing of your decision to come back for them was timed at the precise moment, the precise day that she had your son arrested for domestic violence. She said they were never loans, these items were gifts, and she doesn't know anything about a $125 loan for rent. Who is this gentleman?
This is my father.
Are you living with him now?
No, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
Right now, I live at my house.
Do you work?
Not presently.
Who's supporting you?
My father and financial aid.
You have children?
Yes, I do.
How many?
2.
They're not the children of this marriage?
One of them, my son.
How old is that child?
8 months.
Miss Wyatt, did you see this grandchild of yours while your son was living at home?
Not very often.
Why not?
Because there was problems that they had in their marriage. They would argue and go in the bedroom, and it bothered me to see how her daughter would respond to it.
How old is your daughter?
My daughter is 3.5.
Well, Miss Wyatt, I want to tell you something. Suing your soon-to-be former daughter-in-law is not the way to form a bond with your grandchild.
I understand that.
What month and year did you loan them this old washer and dryer?
My son had moved out in March when he turned 18. The day he turned 18, he decided not to come home. 2 days later, he moved in with Nancy and her father. In May, they had gotten an apartment. They did not have a refrigerator, washer, dryer. I felt very bad because I had mine in storage and said you could use them, but I want them back because I also have other children, and when I get them back, I want to be able to have my belongings so that I can take care of my kids. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not.
Not this much. How old were the washer, dryer, and refrigerator that were in storage that you gave to the defendant?
Your Honor, I have pictures.
How old?
I purchased them when my daughter, which is now 11, was 2.
So they're about 9 years old.
Correct.
And what you wanted to do was, according to you, I'm just trying to get this straight. You wanted these things back to you as a legacy for your younger children. Now, aside from your son who turned 18, how old is the next oldest child?
11.
11. So
9.
by the time, just a second, so by the time the 11-year-old would be an adult, so that you could give the 11-year-old the washer and the dryer and the refrigerator, the washer and dryer and refrigerator would be 18 years old. Are you following what I'm saying to you?
Yes, I do.
Now, on what day did you find out that your son was incarcerated?
On Friday, September 2nd.
And there came a time when you went to the defendant's home with the police?
Correct.
On what date?
September 5th.
Why?
I had given them notice when he had left her prior to him getting arrested.
When was that?
When he moved in with my sister. And I had told them back in August that I wanted my things back. I have health issues, very serious ones. I don't want to be dragged in this. I just want my property back. So when I get my children home, I will have
What children?
I have 4 other children.
Where are they?
They live with my ex-mother-in-law. She was granted guardian health.
You have mental problems or physical problems?
Physical problems.
Okay, I'll hear you.
We moved out in April 2004. We got married in May, which I have my certificate, which was when she told us, you guys can have our refrigerator, my refrigerator, washer and dryer. I'm not using it, I have no need for it. She lives in a studio apartment which already furnishes all these items, which these items are right here. I don't know if you see pictures of them.
I see them, please.
Then everything was fine. She would come to my house, she would stay. We watched over her for 2 weeks after plenty of her surgeries. As for the gas money and the rent money, she would only give me gas money. I think she only gave me $20 one time, and that was to take her to her surgeries and then take her home. And that's as far as the money goes. Now, my husband was arrested on the 2nd. This is his police report.
I see it, please.
Of what happened. She called me on the 4th asking about where her son was, and I said, well, he's in jail for spousal abuse. And that's when she called the cops to have them meet. There's paper right here saying she came out on the 4th to meet her out there at my house so that she could take away the fridge and washer and dryer. Now, when she did that, the first things out of her mouth were, are you ready to take your stuff out of my fridge? I go, I don't have anything of yours. You gave that to us, and that's exactly what I told the cop. That's when the cop sent her away and told her this is, something you need to deal with in court. Well, she didn't go to the courthouse that day to file. She waited until September 6th. That was his visiting day. Now, I had been sitting in there waiting to visit my husband for an hour.
Why?
Well, because I wanted to see where his head was at, if we could work this out through marriage counseling, because this is like the first time this ever happened, and I was willing for my children, for my marriage, to give it another shot, try it out.
He broke your arm?
He fractured it, yeah. I know.
Fracture is a break.
Yeah, I know, it's stupid of me.
Go ahead.
I had waited to visit him for an hour. Well, his visiting was at 9 o'clock, and at 8:45, Denise walked in the jail, and she walked up to the window and asked the lady if she could visit. Well, he's only allowed 1 visitor or 2 shared people, 1 visit a day. And she looked at me, she said, are you gonna let me see my son? And I shook my head no, because I felt he's my husband. I had more of a right to find out what's going on with him. Anyway, at that moment, she turned around and she said, that's fine. I know where you're at, and I know where your car's parked. And she walked out of the jail. So I went to the police station right after, and I went to make a police report on her. Well, they told me they weren't going to do that because they didn't think it was serious.
Okay.
Because I had asked for a restraining order. So as I was walking outside, she comes walking down the street. She says, nice try, Nancy. I know where your car is at. I know where you live. I'm getting your power turned off. I'm going to get everything turned off, and you're going to have to just deal with nothing. And she did this in front of I have the report right here. She did this in front of one of the police department supervisors. And she walked back in with me and told the police officer at the desk, look, this lady is crazy. She's got problems. And it states that in there, too.
Well, you made these threats to her, Miss Wyatt, in front of a police officer.
I've never been contacted about that.
I didn't ask you whether you had been contacted by them, madam. I'm telling you that I'm reading the police report, and you made these threats to your daughter-in-law in front of a police officer.
When I went to see my son, I went to the counter and I said I was...
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about outside the police station. Outside the police station, the police officers indicate they heard you threaten her.
I did not threaten her. The only thing I said as our passing, because I was walking over to the PG&E office, that my son had contacted me. He wanted me to call the property management where he had dealings with. He wanted me to contact the PG&E, the phone company,
For what reason?
to let them know that he was incarcerated. He'd never been in trouble, and they told him he would have 3 to 5 years. I contacted the credit union.
What are you contacting those people for?
Because he asked me to do that, to let them know that he was incarcerated.
For what reason? You must have asked the reason. Why do you want to let the gas company and the power company and the rent know that I'm incarcerated? For what reason?
So that she would go bail him out. Because he had already had her in there all those days, and she had taken his paycheck. All he wanted to do was take his car and leave to cool down.
You want to say something?
I just wanted to...
Stand up.
I just wanted to point out that when the actual washer, dryer, and refrigerator was put into Nancy's possession...
They weren't put into Nancy's possession.
It was a loan
Listen to me.
her.
They weren't put into Nancy's possession, right?
Yes.
She would not have given Nancy anything. She would not have given her a dust maggot. She gave those things to them as a couple because they were getting married, and she wanted her son to have those things. She wouldn't have given Nancy anything.
When it very first started, though, they were not on odds with each other.
They don't
got
have to be
along
at odds
just
with
fine.
each other. Your sister wouldn't have given this lady, who was a stranger to her, anything. She gave them to the family because they were married.
I did not know that they were getting married until the day of the marriage. And I
There must have been a reason for that, Miss Wyatt.
He didn't even call his sisters or brothers or anybody.
Must have been a reason for that, too.
Denise Wyatt says her estranged daughter-in-law, Nancy Christensen, owes for the return of her appliances. Nancy is countersuing for defamation of character and harassment.
Now, I find very strange, Miss Wyatt, that one day after the incident at the jail and 2.5 days after you ascertained that your son was incarcerated for domestic violence, it was at that point that you demanded back with police assistance, this property. Are you still living in the same house that you were living at when you went to get this property?
The studio apartment, yes, I am.
So what inspired you to go and get this property the day after the incident at the jail?
Because I've been spending more time with my children, and I have chances of getting my own children back, so that I will need my things when I
What are you going to do with them when you get them? If I get them to you now, what are you going to do with them?
They're going to sit in my storage until I can get my children.
Hi, Miss Wyatt. I think you need a lot of help. Your case is dismissed. I find that these items were gifts to your son and your daughter-in-law, and just because they are no longer together doesn't mean that you get them back. What it means, Miss Wyatt, is that your son and your daughter-in-law will have to argue over whatever is marital property when they ultimately get a divorce. It may be that he gets them, it may be that she gets them. You have a counterclaim for harassment.
Yes, ma'am.
Leave her alone. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Good. Don't call any of her creditors. Don't call her apartment. Don't call her manager. Don't call the gas company. Don't call the cable company. Do I make myself crystal clear?
Yes, you do.
That's all. No plaintiff met the defendant. You were interested in starting something called an art collective. And I assume what that means is a place where young people can show off their art. Is that right?
And also produce their art and be inspired by each other.
And what you did was you and the co-plaintiff were involved in setting up events to raise money to create this art collective. And the two of you worked together along with Mr. Lewis. You raised over $4,700 at these various events, something that Mr. Lewis does not deny. And you put it in the bank. And Mr. Lewis took the money and spent it. Mr. Lewis's defense is that it was always intended to be his money. That's your defense.
Essentially.
Well, Mr. Lewis, I want you to explain that to me, sir.
9 months ago, I was starting a venue to have
Starting a
venue space for concerts, art showings, and so forth. And over the course of about 9 months, I looked for a location to house that.
I thought you said 9 months ago you had a venue space.
No, 9 months ago we did not.
9 months ago, then you had nothing. You had an idea.
We had an idea.
Keep going.
And over those 9 months, I started a business called...
What was the business?
The business name was Is Village, and it was filed by the Secretary of the State of Oregon.
So now you had an idea that you gave a name to, and you filed a registration of the name. So far you have an idea and a name and nothing else. Keep going.
I basically looked for individuals to help me create this venue space that was supposed to be owned by myself, and met with friends and other individuals, and they aided me in organizing different events.
Who aided you?
These two individuals and a rotating group of individuals that came in, came out.
Keep going.
We held events, generated money, and because the business belonged to me, it was put in my personal bank account and was my personal
Why was it
property.
put in your personal bank account?
Because the business was mine, I started the group, the money was essentially mine from the get-go.
No, that's not true. You're an embezzler. Absolutely. You brought a group of people together in order to create a dream that you inspired others to act upon. In order to do this is village. That's why they went to work for you, and that's why, according to you, the other people who you spoke to became involved in creating the events that brought in money, which would ultimately provide you with a venue. Now, what did you spend the money on, Mr. Lewis?
When I was no longer satisfied with the direction of the business that I started, I followed up on interests, business interests, friends of mine, a limousine.
So you spent the money on yourself?
I wouldn't say that, but...
Well, I would. They weren't investing in a limousine. That's not why they worked to create this, so that you could invest in a limousine? Outrageous. You're outrageous. I'm surprised you didn't notify the police. Did you?
We notified you instead.
Well, his conduct is outrageous, and you should have notified the police. He's an embezzler. And I wouldn't go into a business with you, Mr. Lewis. What you did is outrageous. The only problem is you're not entitled to this money. I mean, my problem is people supported you and gave money and contributed because they were looking forward to someplace where they could show their wares. If I gave you this money and you used it on yourself, you're no better than he is.
Exactly. So we feel like we've learned from this situation, and we're going to get a new business and a new business name.
I want to see how much money you collected and how much you put in his bank. Do you have the records?
Yeah.
I'd like to see it, please.
Yeah.
Ever been arrested, Mr. Lewis?
No, ma'am.
How old are you?
21?
Better go back to business school.
Definitely considering it.
I want to see where the money went in.
The deposits are highlighted and circled, and then we wrote next to it which benefits that money came from.
Oh, that's fine. As soon as you get me the bank records. Not these. The bank records. Do you understand? You mean you can't get them because they're in his name? I will sign an order for the bank to turn those over to you, unless he does. You prepared to turn those over?
More than happy to do it.
Fine. As soon as we get those, and you have a venue with a signed lease, the check will be made payable to that venue. Do you understand? That comports with the reason that not only you, but other people became involved in this vision. Is that reasonable?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Grow up, sir. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in jail. That's all. And Mr. Smith acknowledges that you bailed him out of jail, but he said that that was your choice. He never agreed to pay you back the money. Right?
Yes.
How old are you?
19.
What do you do to keep yourself occupied?
I'm a full-time student and I work.
Full-time student where?
Longview Community College, Kansas City, Missouri.
And you work for whom?
Walgreens.
And what were you arrested for, Mr. Smith?
On speeding charges, tickets that I didn't pay, warrants.
Speeding, tickets, warrants. How many?
8.
How do you manage to get all these tickets if you're a full-time student and working at Walgreens?
What it was when I was in high school, I racked up a lot of tickets, like speeding tickets, and I didn't have a job in high school because I played football, and I didn't work and I never paid them off.
And how do you know Miss Hubbard?
I met her at the club.
Now, were you dating each other or you just knew her?
It was like kind of like that in-between thing where not really friends, but not really together either.
I see. Who was this smiling person over here?
This is my friend Robin.
How long have you known Robin?
About 6 years now.
So he's a good friend of yours?
Yes.
Better friend to you than Miss Hubbard, right?
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Well, he schlepped all the way to court with you, didn't he?
Yeah.
From Missouri?
Yeah, from Missouri.
And who do you live with?
I stay with my dad right now.
So you have a father?
Yes.
And I guess he's known you for at least 19 years, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have a mother?
Yes.
She's known you for at least 19 years.
Yes.
Now, Robin here, he didn't bail you out of jail.
No, he didn't.
So he must not like you so much.
Nah.
And your father didn't bail you out of jail, right?
Right.
He didn't like you so much.
No.
Your mother didn't bail you out of jail.
No.
Right? She didn't like you so much.
No.
You have grandparents?
Yes.
Yeah, how many?
I actually have one.
Grandmother?
Yeah, grandmother.
She didn't bail you out of jail either.
No, she didn't know, actually.
I guarantee you she knew.
Okay.
So how long were all these loving people who were really attached to you, how long did they let you sit in jail when you got arrested?
The whole time.
How long was that?
It was 3 weeks.
3 weeks. I mean, we're not talking about we'll let him stay overnight to teach him a lesson, right? We're letting Mr. Full-Time Student Employee at Walgreens stay in jail 3 weeks. But then, according to what I managed to put together here, they were going to move you from one jail to another because you served your time on a whole bunch of tickets in one county, but then there were other counties looking for you. Is that right?
Yeah.
You ever hear of a man for all seasons? This is a man for all counties. So when they were going to move you, somehow Miss Hubbard bailed you out of jail.
Yes.
Were you happy to be out of jail?
Yes, I was.
How happy were you?
I was very excited.
And how did Miss Hubbard find out that they were going to move you from one jail to another?
I told her.
You told her?
Yeah, I told her.
Did you tell your mother?
No, I didn't tell my mother.
Did you tell your father?
Yes, I told him.
Did you tell Robin?
No, I didn't tell Robin.
Didn't tell Robin either,
No,
but
I
you
didn't.
told your father?
Yes.
And what'd your father say? Bye.
Yeah.
But not Miss Hubbard.
No.
She bailed you out.
Yes.
So what do you think you ought to do?
I told her thank you. I did. I told her thank you.
You told her thank you?
Yeah, I told her thank you. I never agreed to pay her back, so.
What did you say when you called her?
I just told her the situation, that I was done serving my time at that jail and that they were transferring me to a different jail. And she didn't want to see me in jail no more than I wanted to see myself in jail. So she proceeded to bail me out.
Oh, okay. Now, Miss Hubbard, why don't you tell me how it came about that you bailed him out of jail?
Well, he caught me July 19th, which was a Thursday. I knew he was going to the next jail the next day. So he basically talked about how he was tired of being there and that he didn't want to serve the days that he would be serving at the next county. He asked me if I had some money. I told him I didn't at that moment, but I had got paid that Friday. And he basically went into, you know, my bail is $220. If you have the money, I'll pay you back. I don't want to be in jail anymore.
That sounds right. That sounds like what people say.
That's not what I said.
How many times did your father bail you out of jail?
About 4 times before that.
And each time that your father bailed you out of jail, did you pay him back?
No.
That's why he didn't pay you out anymore.
Right.
How are you going to pay back? How much was his bail?
It was $250.
Well, what happened when you asked him for your money back?
I never got a chance to really ask him for the money back because he basically ignored my phone calls. And the last time I saw him, though, he had told me to come back and that he was going to give me some of the money. And after that, when I had called him back, I basically got ignored.
You mean after you bailed him out, he cut you off?
Basically, yeah.
That's not nice, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, can I say something in my defense
Yeah.
for that? I didn't like the way that she was treating me, like the lifestyle that she wanted to live when I got out of jail. She wanted me to like stop hanging out with my friends that I known like way longer than her. She was real controlling and she was like real possessive and I just didn't want to talk to her anymore. So I just cut her off.
I'm going to say something to you that you've probably heard on a lot of commercials. Stay in school, okay?
Okay.
You need it. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $250. That's
Thank
all.
you.
Your complaint alleges that he co-signed for a car for you.
Yes.
The car was titled in his name?
And mine.
But he was on the loan?
Yes.
You couldn't get credit?
Both of us were on the loan.
But you couldn't get credit yourself?
Yes.
You broke up. And the agreement when he agreed to co-sign for you, from what I understand, was as follows. He would co-sign for you and you would make regular payments on the car, timely, that you would maintain insurance on the car, that you would pay for his cell phone, maintain his cell phone. Anything else, sir?
Medical insurance.
And keep him on your medical insurance, pay for his medical insurance.
Yes.
That was in exchange for him obligating himself on the car loan. You broke up. According to Mr. Trujillo, you were late in many of your car payments, which damaged his credit.
Yes.
In addition, although he doesn't say it, you do, you canceled his cell phone and canceled his medical insurance.
In January of '07, yes. This year.
Whatever. You canceled his medical insurance. There was no time limit on this contract.
It wasn't really an agreement that I was going to pay his cell phone insurance. It was more of a blackmail, and I have emails to prove that.
What do you mean? Just a second. I'll see you in a second. But it's my understanding, even from you, in your complaint, that we came to an agreement, this is what you swore to, that he would co-sign my car for me, and I would pay for his cell phone plan along with adding him to my medical insurance. That's what you say.
Yes.
So you canceled his cell phone and you canceled his medical insurance. You fell behind in your car payments and he repossessed the car and turned it back in. Is that what you did with it or are you driving it?
I currently have the car.
You currently have the car, and you've made up the car payments.
Right, I write it up to date.
You want all the money that you put into the car.
Not necessarily all the money, the down payment that I put into and the payments, some of the payments that I did, and for insurance and the cell phone bill that I did remove them from it, but it wasn't really an agreement. And I have emails that show that it was more of, if I take them off, that the car deal would be done and deal with.
Well, that's true. You know, I don't understand, Ms. Blanco. If you made that agreement with him when he co-signed for the car for you, which is what you say in your complaint, and you subsequently break up. So you get the dates. When did you break up?
In September of '06.
And when was the car purchased?
July 22nd of '06.
And when did you take him off the cell phone?
The cell phone, I took him off in this February of '07.
And when did you cut him off of your health insurance?
They didn't cancel that until August 31st of this year, after he took the vehicle and everything.
When did you cancel him from the health insurance? Not when they took him off. When did you cancel him?
When I told him June of this year.
June?
Of '07.
And he repossessed the car?
June 10th.
Which he lied about repoing the car. He did not tell me anything.
He doesn't have to tell you anything. How many times were you late on car payments?
4 times. But I have proof from VW that I called them, everything, we stayed in touch.
I don't care whether you stayed in touch. What does that mean, Ms. Blanco, that you stayed in touch?
Because they cut my hours from work. It was very unexpected. On March 10th, we had a meeting and they told us, hey, we're cutting hours by Monday. I went from working 40-plus hours to 32 hours. There was no way I could come up with the money. I was trying my hardest to get a second job, and Renee knew about this. He knew that I was trying to get a second job. I kept in touch with him. I only paid $110 this time.
Ms. Blanco, you have to be a grown-up, sweetheart. Listen to me. You can't visit your problems on him. The fact that you were working with Volkswagen and they don't want your old car back, they want to work with you as long as they're going to get their money, right? That's one thing. That doesn't mean it's not reported to his credit as the co-signer. The fact that you lost hours impacted on him.
You
understand that.
I understand that.
That's his complaint, because he has a counterclaim. He says you ruined his credit because for 4 times, and I don't care if it was 4 times or 3 times or 2 times, if you don't make your car payment on time, the people who were responsible on that loan are going to be penalized. That was him. He has an absolute right to repossess the car for that alone. In addition to the fact that you had a contract with him, a verbal contract, he would obligate himself on the car if you would maintain him on his cell phone and your insurance. Well, after a while, you're not his girlfriend anymore. You say, I'm going to cancel that cell phone. I don't want to pay for a cell phone where he's calling other people, and I don't want to pay for his health insurance anymore. I'm canceling it.
It wasn't out of a malicious act to remove him.
It doesn't have to be malicious. That was your contract with him.
But it wasn't a contract.
Yes, it was. That's what you said. You said it was an agreement. We came to an agreement that he would co-sign my car for me and I would pay for his cell phone along with adding him to my health insurance. You want me to see what you signed?
I know. I circled that agreement part. It wasn't...
That's what you signed.
I know.
That's what you swore to.
It wasn't an
That's what you said happened. That's what he says happened. He may not want to revisit that now.
Your Honor, there's an email here that shows the only reason I kept that going was because
she doesn't understand that the email is going to support exactly what I said. Yeah, he says to you, you keep me on your insurance and your cell phone plan, and we'll keep the same car deal. That's what he says.
But it wasn't the car deal. The reason why it says car deal is because when we first signed up for the car, we signed up on July 22nd. A couple days after that, the guy that we did the car loan with called us in and said, hey, we have a better interest rate for you. If you come in, we could redo the contract. So I got sick a couple days after that, so we couldn't go right away. I had surgery, everything was fine. We went back and redid the contract, but before we redid the contract, we got into an argument, and I said, you know what, we have to take this out of my name, or out of your name, put it into my own name, now that, this is not how it's supposed to be. And in that email it says,
Ms. Blanco, was the car in both your names?
Yes.
Was the loan in both your names?
Yes.
Do you have proof, sir, that your credit score went from one thing to another?
I do.
Can I see it, please?
Sure. This is the before and the after with the credit scores highlighted.
I have the proof of, or not proof, but When we first co-signed the car, they did a credit check on us, and I have the credit score that they gave us on his and
Not
mine.
us, him.
And mine. Both of ours.
Just his.
Oh, you want
What was his?
His was 776.
Now it's 630. Now it's 630, based upon your 4 late payments. Now, is this a new car?
Yes.
You know, when you walk out of the showroom, the car is diminished by 20%?
Yes.
So he had to take over a car that was now worth 20% less because you ruined his credit, in addition to cutting off his cell phone and insurance. Forget that. So you don't get anything for that, Ms. Blanco? Nothing.
This
You should
is
have
not,
kept
it wasn't an agreement. I know that says in its agreement, but when we were signing it upstairs, I circled it and said it wasn't really an agreement.
Whether it was or it was not, you cannot ruin the co-signatory's credit rating because you had a problem with your job. That's not his problem.
He knew that, and we were trying. We both wanted to make payments on it, but they didn't take credit card. And I tried my hardest to get a second job.
Crying. Did you buy a new car?
No, I have not.
Why not?
I'm saving up for it.
Good. That's what you should have done.
Payments.
That's what you should have done.
And that's what we wanted to do, and I wanted to do, and I have proof that I tried my hardest to get my car to pass MOG so that I didn't have to get a new car. Chucky was also there as when I was searching for a new car. I did not want payments whatsoever, and he convinced me to get a new car and get payments.
You are a very strong young lady, and you don't seem to me like somebody who's shy. You got into difficulty. He had a right to take back the car.
Not the way he did, though.
Listen.
I was at work, Your Honor.
I'm not saying he was Prince Charming. He had a right to take back the car.
But I was at work, Your Honor, when he came, and I had lunch with my boss, and he just took the car. He did not warn me. After lying about having the spare key.
I'm not the moral police, Ms. Blanco. I'm here to decide a legal issue. The legal issue is, did he have the right to take the car? Absolutely. Did he have the right to sell the car? Absolutely. Does he have the right to keep the car and make the payments? Absolutely. That is his prerogative because you ruined his credit. You have no right to do that. You have to be a big grown-up girl and not say, because I lost my job, I had surgery, I had other things that happened to me, and I this and I have that. It's not my fault. He took the car the way I was having lunch with my boss. He didn't give me notice. You breached the contract to make the payments in a timely manner. May not have been of your own volition. It may have been because, I don't know, the sky was falling and henny penny and whatever other reason it was, but that can't impact on him. He's not your boyfriend anymore. He's not your boyfriend. He's not your father. He's not your brother. He has no moral obligation to you whatsoever. Now, you're driving the car, sir?
No, it's currently garaged at my mother's house.
Why?
Because I have nowhere to put it at. I go to San Francisco State, and I have no
Well,
garage.
who's going to drive the car?
My mom's driving it right now.
Oh, your mom's driving it. Good. So you have a nice car, right?
Right.
Good. So what are you complaining about?
By the time I sell the car to my supervisor here, I won't have lost $5,000.
Well, you should have sold it to Hasuna.
She's going to apply for a loan.
You should have sold it to Hasuna. That's not her problem. That's your problem.
Okay.
You took back the car. Car is in good running order.
Yes.
And now you're paying for it, and you're going to sell it to somebody else.
To her.
And right now your mother's driving it.
Right.
Very nice. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
Okay.
So is your claim. You're not entitled to any money back. That's all. Thank you. Thank you. This little girl outside, please.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Come with me.
Ms. Franks, you purchased a dog, I assume this dog, from the defendants.
Yes.
You called them within 24 hours telling them that the dog had some problems. You wanted to return the dog. You ultimately did return the dog. You want your money back.
Yes.
The Roberts seem to believe that they had no responsibility with regard to the dog's condition that you found that was intolerable for you. And they said that they sold the dog, I assume, as is. This is what you get. Mrs. Roberts.
From a breeder in Tupelo.
A breeder?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
It was the end of November, 2007.
Do you have the date?
Not the exact date.
Was it after Thanksgiving?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's give it a date of the 28th of November. And I assume you bought the dog because you have one young child?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she go with you to the breeder?
No, ma'am.
You and your husband went?
Just my husband.
You went?
Yes, ma'am.
How many dogs did the breeder have for sale?
I have no idea how many he had to sell. I think 2. And this is the
How
one
many did you see?
I met him in a town in between where we lived, and he just brought Carly here.
So you didn't go to the breeder's house?
No, ma'am.
So you don't know where he got the dog from?
No, ma'am.
Did you find this person on the internet?
No, in an ad in the trade winds paper, or sales paper that we have in our area.
And he told you he had a dog?
Right.
And don't come to my house, I'll meet you halfway, or I'll meet you someplace.
Right.
And they gave you the dog. Did he tell you how old the dog was?
Yes, ma'am.
How old did he say?
At the time, she was 18 months.
And how much did you pay for this 18-month-old dog?
$200.
Did he say why he was selling an 18-month-old dog?
No, he didn't.
Did you discuss this with your wife before you went?
I spoke to the gentleman on the phone about her.
And what did the gentleman, I'm just curious, so even though I'm not taking this for the truth of it, I'd like to know what the gentleman told you about this dog.
He told me that he had 31 dogs and he was trying to downsize on some of his dogs, and that she had already been bred once and she had 6 puppies at the time, and he thought it was too many for her and he was going to sell her and her sister. And he was originally trying to sell both of the dogs, her and her sister. I do not know anything about the other dog. And I told him that we were only interested in buying 1 dog instead of 2, and he said that he would split them up and sell her to us. And we did discuss whether to come to his house or not, but he decided that he
didn't want you at the house if it's in fact true that he had 31 dogs.
Probably.
Probably. Did he want cash or a check?
We just gave him cash. That's all we had.
Of course. So you gave him cash, and then you bring the dog home, and what happened, Miss Roberts?
She was a nervous dog. She shook for probably the first month we owned her.
1 month she shook?
Yes, ma'am. And after about a month, when we were around her, she stopped shaking. But the only thing that she ever did the entire time we've ever had her is just sit in your lap. Even after sitting in your lap for a long period of time, she wouldn't indicate that she would want to get down and go eat. We'd have to take her back there to the room we keep her in at night, and she'd eat and take care of her business, and then after that she would scratch on the door, give a little bit of a whining whimper, and want to come out and sit back in your lap again. We tried to get her to play because we did buy her for my 9-year-old. She wanted a little dog to play with, and she's just not a playful dog. She's just a lap dog. So
she's probably from a puppy mill.
Well, when we took her to the vet, that's what he said. He said that either being in a kennel, he said either being in a kennel,
caged in a kennel, and probably came from a puppy mill.
Yes.
So what did you do?
Well, we held on to her for a little bit longer, hoping that maybe she would come out of her shell a little bit and play. And when we were convinced after about 3 months of owning her, she was not ever going to be the playful dog for our daughter
so now
that we
she's
thought.
almost 2 years old.
Yes, ma'am. And after that, we decided that what we would do was try to sell her so that we could take that money and buy a playful puppy for my child.
So you put an ad in the paper?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did the ad say?
It's right here.
What does it
says, CKC Yorkie Poo female, small dog, approximately 1.5 years old, 5 to 6 pounds, good health, mostly house-trained, 400, call my husband, and our phone number listed.
That's not the ad that I responded to.
Can I see the ad that you
yes,
responded
it's right here.
to?
It's highlighted in pink. I was in Columbus only.
Shh. Yorkie Poo, CKC, I don't know what that means because they're not AKC registered because she's a mixed breed.
Yes, ma'am, it's Continental Kennel Club.
Approximately 1 year old.
Which she's approximately.
Shh. Do I look like I'm needing help from you?
No.
Approximately 1 year old, mostly housebroken, good health, small, 5 to 6 pounds, $400. Ask for Jean. Is that you?
That's my husband.
That's you. Well, that's the ad. Trade Winds Classified.
This one is the Trading Post. We did take one out in the Trading Post and the Trade Winds.
This is the one she responded to. So immediately your ad is wrong because the dog was not a year old.
I guess so.
And you were asking for this dog that is now older and you know has certain problems twice as much as what you paid for it.
Correct.
Okay. So you came to the house and?
I went to their house. Carly was sitting in a recliner. She didn't get up or anything when I walked in. She got her and she put on the ground on the floor and she walked around and I oohed and awed over for a few minutes. She was shaking and Angie told me it was because, you know, she didn't like strangers is what she said. And so, you know, I said, okay, you know, that could be possible. And I petted her and picked her up and I said that I wanted to get her. And so I left her house. I went to the ATM machine and I withdrew $400 and I went right back and I gave her the money when I got back. She had the CKC certification paper, her pamper pads because she's not housebroken or mostly at all, and a doggy soap.
Just 1 second. Are you telling me that you had this dog for 3 months and the dog wasn't housebroken?
She's puppy pad trained, which I consider mostly housebroken because she only goes on the puppy pads.
No. It's probably one of the reasons that you wanted out of the dog because the dog was a puppy mill dog. The dog was not used to being in a house and being let out. Yeah, sure it is. Okay, you returned the dog when?
That evening after I left, I went to Walmart and I bought food for her. I bought her a bed and some toys. And, you know, the night progressed and she just wasn't acting like I thought she would act. I'm not a professional. So the next morning, I said the best thing I'm going to do is take Carly to the vet. So I took her to the vet, which the office where Amy works, and the vet examined the dog, and I have an animal report here.
I'd like to see it, please.
As well as the invoice.
On February 26, 2008, I examined the above-listed animal because of a complaint of severe emotional issues. The animal would crouch down in the corner and urinate all over itself when touched. It was my opinion that the animal was experiencing fear, anxiety, and the owner would be better off returning the animal to the previous owner. Animals exhibiting such fear, anxiety have special needs that the average pet owner usually is unable to give.
The time we took the dog to the vet was after the fact that April returned her.
They just took the dog to the vet.
Shh. You mean you never took the dog to the vet when you got her?
She never urinated on herself or crouched down in
I'm just asking you why you never took the dog to the vet.
No, ma'am.
Have either of you ever had pets before?
We have quite a few.
Well, then you knew that this dog's behavior was most unusual.
I was told by several other people, we've never had a small dog like this
All
before.
right. We have to give her her money back. Stop nonsense. You try to unload the dog on somebody else for twice as much as what you paid for it. I mean, usually when a breeder wants to unload an 18-month-old or a 19-month-old dog, they usually give them away to try to find good homes. This guy found a sucker who was willing to pay $200 for it. That doesn't mean that you, when you have the dog, I mean, you're supposed to be reputable people. I don't know about this person who's running a puppy mill, but you're supposed to be reputable people. That means that you got stuck. I'm going to find somebody else to stick with this dog and charge him twice as much.
Right.
That's outrageous. You have the dog? Give her back the papers, please. You owe her $400. That's all. Claim that she owes you money for a loan, for some school tuition, and also for rent that you were forced to pay on her behalf because you had signed a lease for her and her children to live in an apartment, and she did not pay the rent, so you were forced to. Ms. Wickham says that's absolutely ridiculous. You did, in fact, pay the tuition for her, but the reason you paid the tuition for her is that she was working for you at the time and you couldn't afford to pay her, so that you paid her tuition instead. And with regard to any other money, she said you have some nerve suing her because she actually made a loan to you for $25,000.
Correct.
When did you give her $25,000?
In February of 2007.
Where did you get $25,000 from?
I sold my home and had a large chunk from selling my home.
How much?
How much did I get from the house?
Yes.
$84,000.
And what did you give Miss Francis $25,000 for?
She had helped me out in a legal situation, and as a thank you, I lent her money. She was in a bind financially.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Now I'm going to ask you about it. Okay. Tell me about this $25,000. I'm curious.
I have no idea about the $25,000. She's never in her life lent me 5 cents.
Do you have any proof that you gave her $25,000?
I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it.
I would too.
Well, it's actually $27,000.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Just a second.
Okay. She gave me that money to hold for her because she couldn't trust herself to handle her money. She actually got, I think, $102,000 from selling her home. She spent all of that money on attorney fees, all of it, trying to get custody of the 5 children that she doesn't have custody of. And as you can see, she's having yet a 6th child.
So what you're telling me is this wasn't money she gave to you.
This was not money she gave me.
This is money she gave to you to hold for her.
To hold for her.
Did you ever give it back?
Absolutely. Every dime of it, and then some.
That's absolutely not true. If I needed her to hold my money, I would have given her the $84,000 she needed.
Maybe you spent it.
No, I actually
Yes, you did.
have some of it left.
Oh, right.
Miss Wickham, you have 5 kids?
I do.
Where are they?
2 of them reside with their father. We have joint custody, and my younger 3 are with their father.
So there are 2 separate fathers?
Correct.
And who is the father of this baby?
The father of my younger 3, my husband.
But you're not living together?
No.
How long haven't you lived together?
Approximately 5 months.
They've never lived together.
Do you ever have a drug problem, Miss Wickham?
Never.
Where do you spend all your money?
I've been going to school for the last 4 years, and I have 5 kids.
Well, right now you don't have custody of any of your children.
It's only been 5 months prior
That's
to
a
that.
long time not to have custody of your children.
Yes. I do have custody of my older 2.
How old are they?
11 and 10.
They live with their father.
They're with me 42%. With him during the week, me weekends, and half of vacation and Wednesdays.
All right, Miss Francis. I have a feeling there's a lot more going on here that I don't know about and probably don't care to know about with regard to this, the facts
Probably
of this
not.
case. Just trying to get a sense of where this $27,000 went.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Because
Go
I
ahead.
gave it all back to her.
Go ahead.
When she was living in my house when she got her kids back, it was almost 2 years. We fought to get her children back.
All right, so the children were taken by the state.
Yes. And then she got them back in, I think, July of 2008. And my sister, which is her mother, and I did everything we could to help her, to support her. Her mother finally in September threw her out. She's disrespectful. She's arrogant. Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
Tell me about this tuition
Okay.
loan.
She was collecting grants from school on a regular basis, and I have the school printout. She had to pay back $3,783 to the school because the foster parent called the school and told them that she had lied.
No, you can't tell me what the
okay.
foster parent says. So she had to pay back $3,780.
Right. And she didn't have it. So she came and asked me if she could borrow it. She asked me, had been asking for about a week. And finally, I just got so fed up, I just said, okay, I'll put it on the credit card, but you're going to make the payment. She agreed. She says, if I pay them back $3,720, whatever it is, $83 now, in December, on December 31st, I will get $7,200.
You mean from financial aid?
Right, for going to school. So I agreed to do it so she could continue going to school. She wants to be a lawyer, and she's already in a good position to do that because she's a fabulous lawyer. Therefore, I lent her the money, okay? The next day, she told me, that night actually, she told me to go to in my own home. I'm letting her and her 3 children live with me. And she tells me she's very disrespectful. So I said, call the school. I'm not doing this, Tammy. I'm going to tell them I'm not paying the money. You are on your own. You figure it out. I called the school, and the lady at the financial...
Don't tell me what anybody said. Did you give her $3,780?
I paid the school tuition back, yes.
Okay. What else did you pay for her?
In October, because I couldn't live with her anymore, so I said, you got to go. She left my home. She called me the next day, and I said, where did you stay? She said, we slept in the park. Her and her 3 children in the park all night in the cold. It was in December, and it broke my heart. So she went to welfare, and they gave her vouchers to stay in motels, I guess, for a couple of weeks. But she came calling me, pleading again, Laura, please, can you help me? I can't rent an apartment in my name because I have bad credit, but can you please rent an apartment for me? And because Child Protective Services was coming to check on the residents to see that she had sufficient housing for the children. Not for her, Your Honor, but for the children. I did it. I went up to Victorville and I rented an apartment for her and the kids.
Go ahead.
And it was okay. Thank you.
Where did you expect her to get money to pay for
well,
this apartment?
this is what she said. I'm going to get $787 a month from welfare. I'm going to get $1,900 child support from the father of the 2 older kids. And I get $400 and some odd of food stamps every month. I'm going to sell that to my friend Teresa, you know, the food stamps, not feed the kids, sell the food stamps for cash, and I can pay the rent. So I said, okay, one more time. So I did that, and that was October 14th, the day that the social worker was coming to check to see if she had sufficient housing for the children. And she came, and there was no furniture there, but she saw that it was a nice apartment. So that was good. And then December 5th, she was arrested again for leaving the children by themselves at 10 o'clock at night while she went to work at a bar from 10 to 2 in the morning.
How old are the children?
11 was the oldest, 9. The youngest was 6 months old, an infant. 3 under 3.5 years old.
What does the father do, the father of the 3 youngest children?
Well, he was working at somewhere, but she got him fired. He's not working now. He's taking care of the kids on unemployment, I believe.
Who does he live with?
His sister.
You see the children?
Yes.
See them at your house?
No, we go wherever we have to go to see them. And he's very amenable. He and we and the kids get along great. They love us.
What about their grandmother? Do they see their grandmother?
Yes, they do.
You go together or
Yes.
separately?
Yeah, usually.
Okay, so she paid rent for a while, and how much rent did she not pay?
In December, she gave them a bad check, so they called me because, of course, I'm the contact, and said that now the rent was $990.
How much rent did you pay in her behalf?
$1,087 and some change.
How many months?
That was in December. Then she paid. She got out of jail and gave the lawyer all the money she was supposed to give me back for the school, the $3,700, and I was upset. But anyway, I had to pay it because it was in my name. So then again in March, she came to my house and says, I don't have the rent. You pretty much have to pay it because it's in your name. So you really don't have much of a choice, Laura, okay? I hated that, but I did it. I mean, it was the truth. It was in my name, so I paid it. She told me on March 20th she would get another $5,000 from school that she would give me. And she got another $5,000 from school, and I didn't get a dime of it. And then she got $2,900 for filing her income tax, and I didn't get a dime of that either. And
okay, got it. Okay, Miss Wickham, I'll hear you.
I lived with my aunt while I was pregnant with my youngest for 9 months, and the agreement was I wanted to finish my last semester at school. She was going to pay my financial aid instead of paying me to work for her.
What kind of work did you do?
Real estate assistant. She's a realtor.
When you were living with her, how much rent did you pay her?
I paid $300 here and there, but she would never take my money.
How much rent did you pay her every month?
We had no agreement.
The answer is nothing. How much did you pay her towards utilities?
I would give her $300. I was working here and there.
How much did you? I thought you were working for her in real estate.
I was, but I also worked as a waitress Friday and Saturday nights.
And how much did you pay her to maintain the food in the house?
I bought my own food and also bought food for her.
Is that right?
No.
Of course not. Nonsense. Did you finish school?
I did, just recently.
Did you graduate?
I'm going to graduate this semester. I'll be walking.
Now, I don't know what your problems are. Clearly you have some. If you have an aunt who loves you and has been supportive, and you have a mother who loves you and has tried to be supportive, and these two women in your life have had it with you up to here, you have to acknowledge at some point that you're doing something wrong. And one of the things that you're doing wrong is somebody who can't take care of their children doesn't have another one.
That's the issue. That's why they're upset. Yes.
Hey.
My aunt told me in an email here if I had another child, and she emailed this to my husband, who she dislikes, that if we had another child, she would do everything in her power to make sure none of us ever saw any of our 5 kids again.
I want to tell you something. She's absolutely right. I don't understand what, except that the laws in this country, unfortunately, don't always protect children. Because if I were in charge of your children, and if I didn't have the law as a constraint, I don't think that you or your husband, who you don't live with, is an appropriate caretaker for your children, because your children have been all over the globe. Your children were taken away and were in foster care. They were in your custody. You left them alone. An 11-year-old with a 6-month-old. And where was the father all this time? Where was his head? Somewhere where it's very, very dark, because he knows, listen, she can't take care of 5 children, so what are we going to do? We're going to have a 6th. Ridiculous. You got to find some other hobby. You got to find some other hobby. And evidently school wasn't enough. Should have had school and work and been so busy that you didn't have time to make number 6. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about it, but I'm telling you, I would watch very carefully, because there's something not right in the wheels up there. And I don't know about the fathers of these children, because I haven't met them, but certainly these children have not gotten the childhood that they were entitled to, which was a certain sense of continuity and living in the same place and not living in a park, and not living alone, and not living without furniture, and living with a father, and living with a mother, and living with an aunt. Come on. Grow up. First way to grow up is to acknowledge what you owe, and you owe your aunt $5,000. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all. Something else.
And a controller for it, yes.
The defendant acknowledges that he has the equipment. He said it's his. You gave it to him.
Okay.
That's your defense, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where is it?
It is currently in my possession at my home.
How long do you know the plaintiff?
Mr. McCullough, I met back in November of 2008.
How did you meet him?
I met him through Matthew Clooney, the plaintiff's witness. I'd been in a band with them since early, probably November of 2007.
So you met him through your bandmate?
Yes.
Now, tell me the circumstances of how this perfect stranger to you someone with whom you had no relationship with, no business dealings with, correct? Gave you what he says, valuable pieces of equipment worth in excess of $1,000.
I went to his house with Matt Clooney, and he said Matt had previously called me saying that Mr. McCullough had an application system for me to use, and I went to
use an AMP system for you to use.
It was given to me, yes.
No, you first said he had an AMP system for you to use. Those are the words that you just said. Is that right, sir?
No, ma'am.
No, of course it's right. You want me to play it back for you?
No, thank
What you said was, Matt called you and said that Mr. McCullough had AMP equipment for you to use. Then you quickly changed the word use for you to have. But the first word you used was use, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did you do?
I took the equipment from Mr. McCullough.
What was the agreement? What did he say to you and what did you say to him?
Well, when it was given to me or handed over to me, there was no agreement saying that I had to return the equipment.
Tell me what he said to you.
What he said to me was, you can have this equipment and use it, you know, tell me what you think about it, and that was what was said.
Did you use it?
Yes.
Did you tell him what you thought about it?
No, I did not.
Then you have to give it back. He gave it to you to use, and he said to you, I want you to use this and tell me what you think about it. There's your contract, if I believe you. You never told him what you thought about the equipment.
No, I did not.
You got to give it back. Now. The fact that you're angry because you're no longer in the band doesn't mean you don't return the equipment. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Within 5 days, sir, you get your equipment back.
Your Honor, just one quick thing I'd like to interject, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What would be the recourse? I'd have the 2 pieces of equipment.
Do you have the 2 pieces of equipment?
Yes, ma'am.
He has them.
Okay.
And they're to be returned to him in good condition. Otherwise, he can bring you back here. Do you understand? You don't want to be back here because you've already embarrassed yourself. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused.
Defendant, who is your former girlfriend, has a computer that belongs to you. You want it back.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant says that you gave her the computer a long time ago. It was a gift. It was a second computer that you had. You had bought yourself a new one. She has a counterclaim for a whole bunch of nonsense. How old is this computer, Mr. Moten?
3 years old, Your Honor.
When did you buy yourself a new computer, Mr. Moten?
2008, Your Honor.
Why did you buy yourself a new computer?
Because I was getting deployed to Iraq, and the old computer, it was old and it was slower than my new computer. So I felt I needed more storage.
And you were taking the new computer to Iraq?
Yes, for business matters.
So you bought yourself a new one. And at that time, you were involved with the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor.
She was your girlfriend?
She was my girlfriend at that point, Your Honor.
Tell me about when he gave you the computer.
When he came back home on leave, we were scheduled to be married, and he gave me the computer when he left back.
What did he say?
He didn't really say much. I mean, he just left it for me because he had a new computer. He didn't need it anymore.
What did he say to you?
There was no specific that, I mean, I recall that he said he just gave me the computer. We jointly lived together. I mean, I have a text message stating that I can have the computer after we broke up.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
If the screen goes blank, you can just press the OK button.
Bird is the button presser.
That would be his number listed below, his cell phone number.
It's cool to keep the laptop. Just give me my mail and my clothes. Did you send that to her?
I think so, Your Honor. Yes, I did.
So?
Well, at that point in time, I felt like I had no way of getting my laptop. I had to get...
Just a second. You went to Iraq, you came back, you broke up. The reasons for it are irrelevant to me. And when you came back, you asked her for the computer.
Yes, Your Honor.
And she said to you, you gave it to me.
No, she said, for me to give you my computer, you have to give me $400 for her ring.
And you said what?
I said, I don't owe you for the ring because I...
Fine. You said, I don't owe you for the ring. That's part of a counterclaim. I don't have to hear that just yet. But at some point, she had your mail and your clothes.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you said to her, it's okay, keep the laptop, which she's now had in her possession for over a year, correct?
Yes.
Keep the laptop, just give me my mail and my clothes. That's what you wrote. Did you get your mail?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you get your clothes?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Well, then she keeps the computer.
Well,
you
no,
made a bargain with her. You said, give me my mail, give me my clothes, you keep the laptop. You got your mail, you got your clothes, she keeps the laptop.
She was asking to keep the laptop because she needed internet access for her and her kids. I was being generous by letting her keep it, but...
Well, you were being generous by letting her keep it. That's what you said. Mr. Moten, were you out of the country serving your country at war?
Yes, Your Honor.
You saw lots of them?
Yes, I did.
You don't have to go back anymore, do you?
No, not at this point, Your Honor.
Great. And you're home? Safe and sound, right?
Yes.
And we're talking about a computer that was so old and slow that you got rid of it, that you bought yourself a new one.
Yes.
Right?
I did, Your Honor.
Just a second. Old, slow, you bought yourself a new one. You know how many old computers I have in my house? My husband says they're too slow. I said, where are you going? Then it has to be faster. But you got yourself a faster one, right?
Yes, I did.
Right, and you came home safe and sound. What are you bothering with minutiae for? What are you bothering with nonsense for, Mr. Moten? Especially when you said so, giving my mail and my clothes and keep the laptop.
Well, I had important files on my laptop that I really wanted.
And you did without them for almost 2 years now, right?
Yes.
You'll do without them for another 20.
I asked her to put it on a hard drive.
And did she?
No, she wanted to keep the whole laptop.
Just a second. Did he ask you to store some stuff for him?
No.
No, of course not. He's making it up as he's going along. Forget it, Mr. Moten. You got home safe and sound. You gave her the computer probably before you left because you got yourself a new one. That's what boyfriends do for their girlfriends. They say, here, let the kids use this one. Let the kids play games on this one because I got one that's faster, that's got more memory, that's got this. And then when you broke up, now you want your computer back. Well, and she's not going to give it to you. She's not going to give it to you because you gave it to her. Not once, probably, but twice. Now let's get to your nonsense counterclaim.
Okay. Your Honor, when he asked me to marry him, he agreed that I would go purchase the rings on my credit card, and when he came back 2 months later, he would pay the full bill. We later did break up, and we agreed that because he had one ring and I had the other ring, that he would pay half, and I also have an email saying that I will pay half. I don't have a problem with that, and here's the bill. But it's from a month ago, so there's still late payment charges on there. I haven't paid it. I have 3 children. I have more important bills to pay than a credit card bill.
Did you tell her to go buy 2 rings?
No, Your Honor. She bought the rings on her own.
It says, I will pay my half. I don't have a problem with that. Hope everything goes well with your new relationship. I wish you all the best. Did you send this to her?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
You have 1 ring, correct?
Yes, I do.
Well, who's supposed to pay for that ring?
Well, she actually gave it to me as a gift, and she was asking me to pay for it.
Let me see it.
So the ring?
Yeah.
I didn't bring it, Your Honor. I forgot it.
Mr. Moten, you're really annoying me. I mean, you did get a copy of her counterclaim, did you not, about the ring?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Well, how could you not bring it if I wanted to look at it? How much was the ring that he has in his possession?
Here's the original bill.
That's what I want to see.
Okay. And then there's the interest and stuff incurred because he didn't pay the original bill, which we agreed that we would each split half of the bill last month.
All right. How much was his ring?
It was the less expensive one on there.
So his ring was $200?
I believe so.
You get to keep the computer, madam. And he owes you $200 for his ring. That's all.
Pardon our excuse, you may step out.
Stories on the lease.
I am the signatory on the lease, and then when she moved in, I had to sign a notice to change my rent, which raised my rent $800 a month for having a roommate.
Can I see that, please? Thank you. Your complaint alleges that after she moved in, she did pay the rent for a period of time, and then she lost her job.
Right, that's correct.
And you took on additional work responsibilities to cover the rent,
Yeah,
with her promise that she would pay you back.
Mm-hmm.
She not only didn't pay you back, but according to you, she has since moved out and moved in with your...
Yeah.
Miss Hurst says that, A, you were finished with the boyfriend before she moved in with him, and second, that she did the chores around the house in exchange for the rent, and there was never an agreement to pay you back.
Chores for the rent?
Shh, just a second. Okay. So I have a few questions.
Okay.
When did this roommate relationship begin?
She moved in on September 1st of last year.
How long did you know her prior to her moving in?
A couple of years. We worked together.
What prompted her to move in with you?
Well, we were talking in the lunchroom one day, and she was telling me that she wasn't real happy with her living arrangement, and my rent was $1,200 a month. But it was a big house, and it was just me and my dogs. And so, you know, I told her I would check into it. I didn't know how it would happen as far as the lease goes. I'd have to check with my landlord. And I did that, and then I talked to her the following week. Even though the rent would be raised $800 a month, I would be paying $200 less, and she would be paying about, I don't know, maybe less than what she was paying before.
Okay, great. So you moved in September of 2004?
Yes.
When did you pay rent?
I paid rent for September, October, and November, and I paid $300 in December.
If you had paid rent, how much would you have paid from December until you moved out?
$5,000.
Is that right?
Yeah, but she made a $300 payment in December, and then in April she gave me $200, so it was
Came down to
4,500.
Well, I'd like you to explain to me what happened.
Well, I met Donna's ex-boyfriend.
He wasn't my ex then.
Don't. I'm speaking to her. Go ahead.
I met Donna's now ex-boyfriend in November, and they had broken up, and we hit it off, and we started dating, and I didn't feel that I needed to really tell her at the time because she was...
skip over the boyfriend and get to the rent.
I got laid off in December.
Yes.
And I was looking for a job, and I didn't find another one until April.
Yes.
And that's why I didn't pay rent.
Well, what did you do all day?
I was looking for work, and I would clean the house, and...
Well, who did you expect to pay your rent?
I figured I'd get another job.
So you owe her the money.
She was happy with the way things were working. No money was mentioned until I told her about me seeing her ex-boyfriend.
Madam, she's not related to you, is she?
No.
Could you move your hair? I can't see both of your eyes. Thank you very much. I mean, why would you think that this lady has the responsibility to take care of you? Forget the fact that you started to date her boyfriend. I don't even care about that. Because, you know, when it comes to issues of the heart, who knows what happens. Why would you think this lady's responsibility is to take care of you?
I don't think it's her responsibility. I thought she was helping me out as a...
Why? Because you moved there, her rent practically doubled. Duh.
She didn't say anything until I brought up the fact that I was dating her ex-boyfriend.
She owed me the money for the rent, and she knows she did.
owes you the money for the
rent.
rent.
And on top of that, then she steals my boyfriend. She met him 2 months before she ever lost her job.
Listen, nobody steals a boyfriend.
They can have each other.
Right. Nobody steals somebody, not these days. If he wanted to go, he went, and good riddance to him, right?
Yeah.
And good riddance to her.
But it's still
She owes you $4,500. Judgment for the plaintiff.